3, 2, 1. Welcome to the David the Dog Trainer Podcast, episode 150. Today we're being joined for a second time by Dylan of Chinook Canine up in Canada. Let's get him on. Jeez. Knock over that computer.
Yeah.
What's good, man?
How's it going, guys?
Oh, you know, living the dream.
Yeah, that's what we all say.
Right?
You guys been busy?
Yeah, dude. Fur dad, I like it. We
Yeah, the mug. Yeah.
just got up here to start this podcast and realized that we like totally shifted around our table and haven't done a virtual one since. So we have like all these like mic stands like twisted in like every direction right now.
Nice.
All right. What's happening? How you doing?
Good. We've been busy too. Yeah. It's been good. Things have been busy with us. I just got back from Vegas. Had a little bit of a vacation, so just getting back from there. Just kind of settling back into things here.
Were you said you were there for a vacation, or were you there for like the school stuff?
No, it's a vacation. Yeah, basically vacation. We went to do you know what SHOT Show is? Are you familiar with that?
It sounds familiar, but
it's the shooting, hunting and outdoor trade show. So it's a big trade show they do in Vegas. I think it's like the largest firearms convention in the US. I think it's like thousands of vendors and stuff like that. Yep. It's like firearms, hunting stuff, outdoor stuff. So it's pretty cool. I mean, I'm from Canada, so we don't really do any shooting or anything besides like hunting, obviously.
Yeah.
But it's cool to go down and check that scene out. But it's just a vacation. I took my dog down there. I drove from where I am. I drove down there. It's like an 18-hour drive.
Jesus.
Took my dog down with me. Yeah, it's a fun drive though. It's so nice. Like you're driving through the Rockies the whole time. It's like you go straight the whole time too. So it's like pretty easy. You just set the cruise control. Got the little self-driving thing going on, so I can just like let go of the wheel and cruise, and it's really nice. Beautiful country. And then you get to Vegas, and it's so nice because it's like cold up here. And you get to Vegas, and you get out of your car, and it's like 16 degrees or whatever that is in Fahrenheit. It's like 65 degrees, so it's pretty nice. But yeah, it's just a lot of fun. We get to bring our dogs and stuff to the convention, get to walk to the casino with our dogs and stuff, and it's just tons of fun,
That's awesome. Where'd you guys stay? Did you stay at one of the main hotels or?
No, we just get an Airbnb when we do it because we bring the dogs with us, and there's usually like 3 or 4 of us kind of doing it. This is the second year now we've done it, and we like to have just an Airbnb with like a backyard and stuff so we can break the dogs and things like that. But it's kind of more affordable, I think, to do it that way too. And you don't have to be right on the strip or anything like that, which is kind of nice. So
yeah, that's sweet. My wife and I are going to Vegas in April, just for like a little music festival down there. And she's never been there before. I've been there a couple times, but we're looking forward to it.
Yeah.
It's a fun place to go.
Yeah, I don't gamble much, and I don't really drink much or anything like that. But it's fun to just go hang out and see all the cool stuff there is to do there. There's so much other cool stuff to do there too.
Just a wild place. Like my wife and I were just out of town recently, and we were out of the country, and everybody we talked to, like all the locals and stuff, like on this island that we were on, they like they all said like Vegas is the place that they go to visit when they go to the States. It's just like when everybody thinks of like USA,
so weird,
it's either Los Angeles, it's Las Vegas, or it's New York. It's one of the three.
Well, Vegas is like the embodiment of what Americans are. We gamble, we smoke.
It's weird,
We gamble,
Hilarious.
And it's funny because it's the biggest firearms
place.
thing too,
Yeah.
Like we love our guns here, so that's a perfect representation for you to have of an American.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, it's a wild place. Like the contrast from Vegas to here is like insane, especially. Yeah. But even like for people like from the States, like I always go with my friends from the States, like my buddy from Arkansas that owns a training facility there. I go with him and a few of our other friends in like law enforcement and stuff like that. So they say the same thing. It's just a crazy place, Yeah. My buddy Rob, he always says it's a place you're excited to get to, but you're just as excited to leave.
Yeah,
that makes sense, and it's true, and it's so funny too. And like again, like one of the things, you'll drive into Vegas and you'll be, oh my god, this place is amazing. It's beautiful. It's crazy. and then you'll just like leave the strip, and it's like, dude, this place is a shithole. It is a shithole anywhere off the strip. And even the strip is kind of like getting a little gross nowadays. I don't know if, you know, it's not the nicest place sometimes, you know. If you're kind of like enthralled by it for the first time or whatever, then it's like, but once you go a couple times and you start to see through things a little bit, it's like, oh, that's kind of messed up.
Yeah, that's right. What is it? Place built.
It's still cool though. It's awesome.
Yeah, hell yeah. So you said you guys are staying. Sorry, go ahead.
You're breaking up just a little bit. I don't know if it's on your end or my end though. It's just like cutting out a little bit here and there, but
let me know.
I don't know.
Let me know if it gets bad. It looks like you have a little bit of a delay on your mic as well, but I could hear you well, so maybe it'll get better. Who knows?
Yeah, we'll see. Okay, it's good right now, though. It's good right now. So.
Yeah, you're the farthest guest I think we've ever had, so it's a long way.
No, UK.
Really? Oh,
Danny.
No, you guys had people in, UK. I think,
that might be the same distance, honestly.
Yeah.
It's possible. So, speaking of UK,
it's not. We're not that far.
Did you hear? So, obviously, February 1st, they were supposed to have the e-collar ban take effect over there, and it is effectively February 1st, and it didn't go through. Did you hear that?
Somebody posted about that. I saw somebody posted that, but then I Googled it and I didn't see anything online, but maybe it just, does it hit the news? Like I checked it out last night and I didn't see anything on the news about it, but maybe I just didn't do enough research, or maybe it just didn't hit the headlines. I mean, it's not really a big deal for most people, but
yeah, I don't know if it'll hit the news and stuff. My source of information for them over there is that Jamie and Danny, obviously the guys who have been really like leading the show on pushing back against that ban.
Yeah.
And they both made pretty big, substantial posts yesterday and today just talking about how basically it kept getting pushed back. And then once it hits the date it was supposed to be effective, if there wasn't like a consensus on it, the bill is effectively gone then at that point, is my understanding of it, right? So basically they could try to like reenact it and like push back on it again and you know, see if they can get it to go through a second time. But like for as much probably time and money that's gone into it so far, it sounds like it's pretty unlikely that will happen, which is pretty sweet. I mean, they really busted their asses to kind of push back on that over there. So that's pretty sweet.
Yeah, I remember like seeing all the posts and stuff about that when it first came to light. But no, that's awesome that they were able to get that kind of repealed. So I think we talked about it last time, but it's one of those things that's definitely going to come to Canada too, I'm sure. The same kind of thing, you know. Didn't they just had a big bully breed ban over there too, right, in the UK?
Yeah, so I don't know all the details as far as that. I didn't follow that very closely, but he touched on that as well in it. And I think basically they had a grace period where you could register your bully breed with them. And if the dog is outside, it needs to be leashed and on a muzzle. Like similar to like in the States here, we have like dangerous dog legislation and stuff where if your dog gets a dangerous dog, you know, note on them or whatever, you have to do pretty much the same thing. And I don't know. I think their big push was on the e-collars. Obviously at that point, I don't know what they have in store as far as trying to push back on that. I think the breed one, the BSL stuff is going to be a lot harder to, you know, get any sort of push on, you know, as far as getting that reverse. Because we talked about it a little bit last time as far as like pit bulls and all that kind of stuff. Like, you know, with the e-collar, the statistics are so gray where you could fight them and say, hey, this actually isn't true. This actually isn't true. But the statistics as far as like bites and like all that kind of stuff, like are a little bit harder to deny, you know? So, tough position to be in, but, you know.
No, that's good though. That's good because it's like it's one of those things where it's like, you know, it's pretty big organizations lobbying for that kind of thing, like the e-collar bans and stuff like that. So to be able to kind of get rid of that is cool. And I know, I'm not sure. We could ask him, but I'm pretty sure it was like when Tyler Muto was the president of the IACP, whenever that was in like 2012, that there was a ban on, I believe, prong collars and maybe electronic collars in Toronto. And I think that like the IACP at the time got that overturned as well. That's a big deal too. I mean, that's a huge population of Canada. So
yeah, that's massive for sure. Are you super familiar with? Are you a member of the IACP?
That's a funny question. So, and it's so funny you bring it up because we had this conversation yesterday.
Yeah.
Because one of my partners, they asked me, they asked me what's the point of joining the IACP? Like, do you just pay a membership so you can like put their logo on your website or whatever?
Yep.
And I said to them, I was like, well, like, yeah, like you pay a membership, you put their logo on your website, but really like, and then I told they've been responsible for some like pretty big pushes in the balance training community, and they are like one of the most outspoken advocates of things. But then I told her, like, especially lately, things seem to be pretty disjointed over there. Like, so first of all, I'm in the Facebook group, the private membership group. I'm gonna get kicked out for this now, but I'm in the private membership group or whatever. Like I get all the emails, I get like invited to the conference, but I haven't paid a membership fee for the IACP in like 2 years.
Sure.
So like, I'm not supposed to be involved in any of this stuff. They're supposed to be doing their due diligence and removing people that don't pay their membership, but whatever. So with that being said, it's like they're obviously not paying attention to that. And then I see in the Facebook posts or the Facebook group, it's like they just kicked out their most recent president or the person that was in charge. And I believe there was some like legal issues with that too. And then there was a bunch of other stuff before that where they were going through a bunch of pushback from members, and now they had to change the website, I believe, and everybody's up in arms about that because now they can't find the trainer registry on the website, and it's just a whole shit show, and nobody knows what's going on. So, I have no interest right now of joining. I mean, if they're pushing back against some sort of legislation,
sure,
then yes, I will absolutely pay my dues or whatever I need to do to help out with that. But at the same time, it's like, right now, I just don't feel like giving them my money realistically.
Yeah. I don't know anything about current IACP stuff. I never wound up joining. I remember when I was going out to Tyler's place, like somewhat regularly, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, whatever it was. He was like getting ready to become the president of it. And then like near the end of when I started going out there, he like effectively took over as president. And I remember asking him about it. He's like, yeah, you should join, we've got a really great, board over there. It was, actually like established, like boots on the ground people, they weren't super like political from the standpoint of there wasn't a lot of like everybody that was a part of it seemed to kind of see eye to eye enough on like the big picture goal, and what he said was, like the point of it is the IACP is going to be doing things to make sure that we have our best fighting chance to push back against any sort of, legislation that might come this way and all that. Like they were really going to be the people heading the show on that. And that was his biggest reason for wanting to be involved in it. And I considered joining, but for whatever reason, I never wanted to. I don't know, whatever. But it just kind of seemed like once he left that position, like all reputability of the IACP kind of just like went out the window, and it seems like all I hear from other people that are involved in it is like all it is just people fighting with each other in it now at this point. So
great.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what it seems like. Yeah, it's like I joined when it was Melanie was the president when I joined, and I thought she was doing a good job when I joined because I followed along with the ICP before I joined and stuff.
Sure.
But yeah, it's like you said, like I don't know, I couldn't even tell you like what is their stance or position, or what have they done to push back on this proposed e-collar ban in the UK? Yeah. Like have they done anything, or I don't know, like maybe they have, but it hasn't. I've only heard of the Jamie and Danny's pushbacks. That's the only thing I've really heard of, right? And so and his thing, I think Jamie is Ardo, right? ARDO. That's his organization, I believe, in the UK.
I'm not sure. He
something like that, isn't it?
His company is Take the Lead.
You should Google that.
Take the Lead Training or Take the Lead K9
or
something.
Yeah. He has an organization over there as well. I'd be curious what it's called. Maybe shout it out. But anyway, so I don't know what their pushback is on that. And like you said, it's just a lot of infighting. A lot of infighting and stuff since kind of COVID basically is when things seem to have went really south for them. Maybe even just before that, I don't know. But
so regarding,
I don't touch it though. I don't really get involved.
Regarding their stance on their pushback on the e-collar thing, when things were like first getting really hot over there in the UK when they were announcing all of it, the IACP did release a statement, right? Like a 1-page statement. And I remember reading it, and the entire statement was of the guise of that e-collars are like a non-aversive tool, right? It was basically their their push against it.
Yes, exactly.
You know, which obviously we've talked about that till we're blue in the face as far as, you know, our opinions on that. But like they really tried to take that, like, I think faulty argument that can just be picked apart of just the e-collar is not an aversive tool only when it's used properly and blah, 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 you know? And I just remember, I think the episode so weird, I did on it, I read it and I think I myself kind of picked it apart a little bit. I wasn't super into it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm curious who's in charge of that, like that decision or whatever it is. But they do, like I said, like even at the last conference, I know there was like a big LEMA thing, like least intrusive, minimally aversive or whatever. Yeah. I think that's what it stands for. Yep. Certification course that they were promoting. And it seems like that's kind of the direction the IACP wants to take, which I think is where a lot of that pushback comes from. Because like you said, it makes it like, you know, difficult to justify utilizing tools like remote callers for simplistic tasks, like well, not simplistic, but things like recall and stuff that I would still deem it necessary. But at the end of the day, it's intrusive and aversive, you know? So like, you know, how do you justify that or balance that? You know?
What's your overall take on like just LEMA as a whole? So I think it's least invasive, minimally aversive, I believe. So I think the principle of it is that like if you're going to use any sort of aversive or invasive technique, it needs to be the absolute minimum that you can get away with in order to achieve the result, right? Which obviously can forever be argued back down to, do you need aversives at all? Which is kind of where it kind of stems from, you know? But yeah, I'm curious your thoughts on just overall that kind of philosophy.
I would say like there's certain instances where like that you can take that approach, but at the end of the day, it's like at the same time, like using that approach could be torturous for certain situations. You know, like if I know, you know, even just for example, like a dog is, you know, reactive on the end of the leash, and we've covered all the bases for why that might be. If I know that like an e-collar correction is going to solve this issue, or at least like make it like, you know, 100 times better or 10-fold better, why would I not use that approach first instead of go through, you know, checking off the list of like least intrusive, minimally aversive things to try first? Or even like, you know, if I know something else might work, but it'll take 6 months or a year versus the e-collar route, or versus like a more aversive or intrusive route, not even to use e-collar is the example, but why wouldn't I take that quicker, simpler, more easily understood route for the dog, you know? And you see it all the time. Like we see it all the time as trainers, you know, dogs that have been, you know, they get confused, right? Or owners that get confused through these other methods that kind of make them go through, you know, just constant different things that they need to try, versus like, hey, like, you know, let's do this. It's going to work right away. We know that. And then we can kind of go back and work on all the other things we need to work on. It's like I said, it can be torturous for certain situations if we're really trying to use that, like I said, that least intrusive, minimally aversive route.
Yeah. I think if you, I think there's like a couple different ways that I like to look at it, where in principle, this idea that like, let's try to use as little force as we can to achieve the desired response. Like, I think that's obviously noble and something that everybody should try to do for the most part, right? I think the overarching principle of it and like where it's derived from, which is like this kind of way of arguing, like, do we need force in the first place, right? Can we just like, you know, desensitize things and counter condition and avoid the corrections, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? I think that side of things I pretty wholeheartedly disagree with, right? I think that the use of aversives is necessary in many cases, right? At least when you look at all the variables of like real life situations. But I think that when you look at, say, teaching a behavior, right? Like if we're training a dog and we're teaching bed stays and recalls and down stays and stuff like that, I think that as we're working through our program, we should be attempting to be as minimally invasive and least aversive, or least invasive, minimally aversive, or whatever the fuck it is, right? I think that's great. And I think that's something that I try to look at all the time, where it gets really easy when you're working with a dog and like you're doing a downstay with them, right? To be like, oh, okay, cool. Well, the dog's breaking their downstay. I've done 8,000 downs before. Like, I'm just going to correct them for it, right? And get them to kind of fix themselves. When in actuality, you could look at, if it's not a dire situation where the dog is breaking the down to try to go like bolt after a squirrel or react towards a dog or something like that, right? Maybe there's a degree of confusion at play, and maybe I could kind of reverse engineer this and fix that problem, right?
Yeah.
I think where I disagree with the using as little as we can get away with is when we look at creating inhibitions for like behavioral issues, right? So like, let's say I'm going to correct for whatever, any number of behavioral issues. We'll just say like counter surfing, right? Getting food off of my counter. Like, yeah, I might be able to get away with correcting the dog. If we're just using e-collar as the easiest example, because we could actually put numbers on it, right? Maybe I can get away with correcting at a 20 to get them to stop doing that. And it might stop them in that moment. But when you look at creating an actual inhibition behind things, in order for it to work, it needs to be aversive enough for them to want to avoid it the next time, not just stop in the moment. So the amount of pressure needed to stop it in the moment is going to be significantly less than the amount of pressure to create an actual lasting inhibition behind the behavior, which kind of goes against the minimally aversive side of things, I feel like, you know? So that's where I feel like I kind of
even like
on it.
What about like, you know, even the example again, counter surfing, you could take the really what the least intrusive, minimally aversive route would be is gate off the kitchen, right?
Sure.
But is that really the least intrusive to the dog? And is that really the minimally aversive thing to the dog, right? Like an entire room of the house is no longer allowed access to. Yeah, sure, we didn't use any force. No aversives were used. But really what is actually more distressing? What's more aversive to the dog? You know, a single correction from an e-collar or lifetime of having that gate up there or whatever it is, right? You know?
Yeah.
That's what I would look at too.
Yeah, I think I try to look at like a lot of these like, you know, force-free kind of ideas and stuff, you know, like the Lima. And it's like, yeah, like there's definitely things I think trainers should look at and not totally disregard it. But yeah, like my problem is like where a lot of them are created is just like with almost an agenda of pushing back on something that they don't like, you know?
Yeah, 100%.
So,
I mean, that is such a great analogy. You know, like you're blocking off so much more from the dog, just because you don't want to do this one thing.
Yeah,
and I do feel like that's a consequence of that kind of movement, the force free or low correction or whatever. It's like, well, instead of ever having to do this to the dog, I'll just never have them in that situation ever and keep them away from this entirely. And
or
you could just
it's
not
like
allow
card chasing is another.
Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, like card chasing is another good example, right? Like again, like a lot of force-free trainers are going to tell you, like, or not even force-free, but just least intrusive people that have this mentality are going to tell you your dog needs to be confined to a long line. It's like it's that simple, you know. And that's going to be their method of resolving that without being intrusive or aversive. But I would argue, and I think we would all agree that that's way more aversive and intrusive than e-collar correction and allowing the dog to be free, you know. That's the way we would do it most likely. Use an aversive approach to correct it, and then the dog is granted more freedom. So
hell yeah. Well, listen, obviously a lot of the reason why I wanted to have you on for the second time, so you just finished up Ivan's actual school. How long, what did you finish that, a couple months ago or something?
Yes. Yeah, so it's kind of an ongoing process still, to be honest with you, because I'm not still technically fully certified yet through the program. So the way that it works is you go to you start the course. So basically, I started in June of 2023 is when I started the course. The course material is introduced throughout that time. I believe it was June to August. The course material is released to you because it's via it's all online kind of stuff. Through like lectures and video demonstrations and stuff. So you go from like June when you start the course and June when you start the course to August when it's like you finally have all the information. Then in August you're going to go to Ivan's to write the test. So there's a test that needs to be written. That's the we good?
Yeah, sorry, I'm just
recording in progress.
Video. I had to restart the video.
Sorry.
No worries. Yeah, so like I said, so the course for the Ivan course is going to start in June. That's when I joined the course. It's going to go to August when we get all the information is released by the time August rolls around.
Sure.
It's released in like increments. So like modules are released every twice a week, I think is how it worked.
Yeah.
And you study the material and stuff throughout that time. Then you go and write the written exam. So the written exam is the first part of the testing for the certification. So you'll go to Florida, you go to Plant City, which is where his place is there.
Yeah.
And you'll spend a weekend there. It's called the Trainer's Weekend. So during that weekend, you'll kind of meet all the other people that are in the course with you, that have been taking the test with, that are going to be taking the test with you. And it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So you do 2 days of basically lectures and learning with Ivan, like in person, which is it's tons of fun. It's really cool. He makes it such a fun experience to go learn from him there.
Yeah.
And then, you'll, even after the class and stuff, you'll hang out. He'll hang out with everybody, have drinks and stuff with everybody. It's kind of a bit of a fun little party, honestly. And so there's 2 days of that, and then on the Sunday in the morning, you write the exam, and you write the exam, and it goes into the testing and writes it. Once you're done, again, everybody kind of hangs out after the test and drinks and just hangs out, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which is, again, it's tons of fun. It's a good environment. And then you go home, and then you find out if you passed the test or not from after that. Like, about a week later, you'll find out. I failed the test the first time around. I didn't pass it the first time, which is pretty typical. It seems to be the case. So I ended up going back again in November, which was the second writing. So when you go back to write it, you'll be with like kind of a new group of people, plus the people that maybe didn't pass with you, which is a good portion of the class. You rewrite the exam. It's going to be a different exam, same concepts, obviously, same ideas, but different questions for the most part. You do the exam, and so this time I passed. The second time around, I passed the written exam, which was exciting. That's a big achievement in and of its own. Some people don't even make it past that. It's a pretty difficult exam. And so then you go on to the practical portion of the certification, which I've been finding is maybe the more difficult part, which I thought was going to be the easier part. But the practical is basically where you have to film and demonstrate you applying the concepts to a dog. And I don't know. I don't want to give too much away because I don't know what's available for the public to kind of know about the practical examination. But basically, you just have to demonstrate some behaviors trained through the TWC methodology is basically the whole idea of it. You film, I think you got to film like 5 videos of each of these behaviors you got to perform. And then Ivan will review them, and you find out whether you passed or not. So again, I've recently sent in my practical exam videos in January. And I had some things I needed to fix and adjust with them. So I've recently sent in my newest set of practical videos to find out if they pass the test or not. And then once I do that and pass that, then we become certified. So
yeah.
So it's quite a process, from start to finish. It can take a full year. The cool thing about it, and I don't know, maybe we talked about it last time. I don't know how much I knew about it last time we talked. That was a while ago, but you get a year to do it basically. So you pay the fee for the course, and you have a full year to do. Got it. Take the course, review the information, take the test, pass the test. Then once you pass the test, you can do the practical. So if you don't pass, and the testing is only done every 3 months or so, and sometimes I think they don't even do it every 3 months. So you might only have 3 opportunities in a full year to write the test, right?
Yeah.
So then if you don't pass the test, you got to do it again, and then you got to do it again. And once you start closing in on like, okay, I only got 3 months left to do the practical now. It's like, that's a short period of time I'm coming to find,
Mm-hmm.
I still have quite a bit of time. I finished my testing within 6 months. So I still have like 4 months till June basically to complete the practical. So I have lots of time.
Yeah.
But man, like it's especially if you don't have access to dogs like me and you would, it can be really difficult to get this stuff done,
Yeah.
So I imagine it's pretty stressful.
Yeah. What, so you said you obviously failed it the first time, and you said that seems like it,
yes,
a decent amount of people do, obviously. What sorts of things did you find that you struggled with on it, that, took you to the second time to kind of get right? Well, like what sorts of things in that's not the practical side. That's what did you call it? The first half of it?
The written exam. Yeah.
The written exam. Yeah. Yeah. So what types of things were in it that you found were, the ones that you struggled with? Yeah,
so it's a lot of theory, and scientific, just scientific terminology and stuff like that, and the understanding of that, which I feel like I did pretty good with that for the most part. But then there's the conceptual side of it, like applying those concepts and applying the theory and that stuff to the actual concepts of TWC. And that's where I found I kind of got like especially as somebody that had quite a bit of experience training and doing things differently than maybe the TWC way, you can kind of get stuck on some of the answers of like, maybe not answering them like, not necessarily answering them like as they're supposed to be. You might answer them like, you think of it. Like, let's think of something like,
like, can you use like an example that might describe it? Yeah.
Yeah. Even just like, let's say we're talking about like, okay, so like a good example would be like, a lot of people will like put in things like, let's say we have a nervous dog. What's one of the things that we're going to, so I guess I should explain like how the test works. It's a lot of multiple choice questions. It's about like, I would say a good portion of multiple choice, not even a good portion, maybe half multiple choice, something like that. And then the other half, and obviously the more heavily, examined part of it, the heavily graded part of it is going to be the written portions of the exam, like the written long word answers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that's where basically like, you'll either get a question and you'll be expected to write like the answer, and that might be something like, what is the difference between, avoidance and escape in escape and avoidance learning? It'll be something like that, Yeah. And then you might have to write out the answer to that, right? And the even more heavily graded parts is going to be the, like you're going to get a video clip of like, maybe it's going to be like a dog. It's going to be a quick video clip of a dog doing a behavior, whether it's like, doing a bad behavior with an owner present or something like that. You're going to get a pretty quick video clip and then be expected to answer a question about that clip. Like, how would you go about resolving this problem using TWC methodology or something like that, right? Mm-hmm. And so just as an example, let's say you get a video clip of like a fearful dog, and a lot of people, like especially with like past experience training stuff, they'll say like, how are you gonna fix the relationship with the dog, right? And it's going to be like, oh, I would use like, positive reinforcement and food to build a relationship with the dog or something along those lines, right? And that's going to be an instant failure right there in the TWC course, because he wants to know, how are you going to build a relationship with the dog? What are you going to do to build a relationship with the dog? And understanding the methods of TWC and like, what are you going to be able to do to build a relationship with the dog? Things like that, right? Or if you say, you're going to punish a behavior, like how are you going to punish the behavior? What's that going to look like, right? You can't just say you're going to punish something, right? So it's really being able to dive deep into those concepts and the answers that you give.
Yeah.
Without overdoing it as well. It's cool the way they do it. Like I said, it's kind of stressful because it's like you get like a quick video clip and then you're expected to answer like, how would you solve this problem basically? And it's like, some people will write like pages of information, some people will just write like little blurbs kind of thing. Right. Yeah. And, everybody might, you might pass with either or, but it's really just making sure you dove into the actual concepts and understood those concepts of TWC when you answered the question,
Yeah.
That's going to be like the biggest thing. So when I failed the first time around, that was kind of part of the issue. And then the other issue is like, just answering it like you're a trainer, like you're talking to a client, like you're a TWC trainer. Like don't get too into the jargon and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That was another big thing that I found is important.
That's tough because it's like, I don't want to say it's like subjective, right? But like a lot of the answers, he's looking for a very particular type of answer, obviously. But if it's the way I'm understanding, which is like you literally just have a section to write something out in, right? It's like, you could, I know if I was sitting in front of that test, I would just be like, I don't know exactly what he's looking for, so I'm going to just write everything. Have like fucking page long responses to everyone, right?
Yes, and people will do that, right? And it's like I said, it's like, I don't know, like that's not always a bad thing. Like, especially this is the thing, like if the answers are in there, then you got it, you'll still get it, right? But you just have to show that you understood, like I said, the concepts, right? It's again, like for me, like I write pretty short answers, like realistically, like I write pretty short answers for the most part with that stuff. But yeah, it's just being able to break it down, and he's not looking for a specific answer. You could answer it a different way than somebody else.
Got it.
Again, as long as you kind of covered the concepts, right? And as long as you covered what you learn throughout the course. Yeah. That's going to be the biggest thing.
Yeah. And I'm assuming he is the one teaching everything. Is that correct? I know you said a lot of it's like online.
Yeah, he teaches everything.
But yeah.
Yeah. all of it. So basically must have filmed it. I don't know when he filmed it, but they must have done like at some point, they must have done like a multiple week or like a 1 week or 2 week like course at his place and filmed the whole thing. And that's what the course's content is taken from, is this long, basically like week-long lecture, however long lecture. But again, and that sounds boring, like when you say it like that, but man, he's a great teacher, and the way he sets up the class and stuff is just, it's really captivating. And the information you learn is just so engaging. But yeah, it's basically just like lectures and stuff. And, slideshow lecture kind of material. There is also some like, especially, they've been adding different modules and stuff because they're still expanding on the course. Sure. So they've been adding lectures from other people like Dr. Mark Plonsky and stuff like that. Different lectures from people like him. But otherwise, it's mostly all the stuff that you need to learn is Ivan's teaching and demonstrations. There's a lot of demonstration videos and stuff throughout the course as well. And then when you go there for the weekend, same thing. It's mostly Ivan teaching, but he'll have guest speakers come out and stuff. We didn't have any guest speakers when I went, but it's mostly, it's all him doing the teaching.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. Cause I would say, excuse me, not to shit on anybody else by any means, but like the other big schools, obviously Bart's like gold and platinum school and all of that he does. And at this point, it seems like his big goal is just scaling his school as big as possible. And basically he just certifies somebody up to platinum, and then he has that person out teaching the course. Right. And I don't think he himself is doing much teaching, or his wife, Michelle or whoever it is. Yeah, right. And it's like I know, like, there's
I think they call it.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say they call it the gold multiplicator or something like that. Yeah.
Oh, is that what they call it?
Gold multiplicator.
That's what they call it. Yeah. There's definitely a little restricted trademark symbol at the end of that too.
Yeah.
So, sounds a little pyramid.
Don't forget to include that.
It does sound a little bit pyramid-y. And the other thing that kills me too is like there's people that are, I'm sure, phenomenal trainers, right? That I see that graduate the program and go on to teach it. But like, like in some cases, like I saw like a picture recently of one of the instructors with like a couple people that went through the course, and the person that was going through the course, like I don't know personally, but I know of this individual, and it is a very, very, very established, very good trainer that was learning from somebody that probably knows the content well, right? And knows the material well. But I would argue if that individual has half of the credentials as the other person does. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
And it was just like a little bit weird because it's like, like you almost like, I think Ivan says a lot of times, like you want to go to the horse's mouth for some of this kind of stuff. And it's like, I could go take these courses and you could take these courses and you're going to have a great understanding of the TWC program, right? But at the end of the day, there will inevitably be questions that are presented that it's like, unless you created it, you're not necessarily going to know the answers to that, right? Yeah. which is tough, So that's why I like that Ivan is currently at least doing it all himself, and he's not having other people come in and do the teaching and stuff.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go do some snooping and see who this person is you're talking about, because I'm trying to think of it and I don't think I've seen that yet, but I'd probably know if I saw it. But it's I don't know. I'm into it. Like I'm cool with that too. Like if you're especially if you're what you're teaching is easy enough to teach and like get out to the masses, then go for it. But at the same time, again, like I think especially from what I know about Nipopo, it's a pretty intricate system and it takes a lot of skill. So I don't think it's something that you're gonna be learning in and I don't think the point is to learn in a weekend. I mean, I do think most of their schools are like weekend things, but maybe they do online stuff too to supplement that. I don't know. But still, it's like, it's one of those systems, especially that it's like, you don't want people like going out and teaching like Nipopo courses to just the masses and people, everybody getting e-collars and trying to do low level e-collar stim conditioning with the dogs and stuff. It's just, again, that's a one-way ticket to e-collars getting banned. It really is, in my opinion.
Yeah. What, obviously you said you're still going through the course. I don't want you to like, obviously be talking on behalf of TWC by any means, but like, what would you say have been some of your biggest takeaways from it so far?
Yeah. yeah, I think at this point now it's like, I could probably speak pretty much fully about it because it's like, it's, if I mean,
yeah, understood.
Yeah, once I get the certification, obviously, then yeah, it's a little easier to talk about that kind of thing. But it's still, regardless, I've done the course and everything like that. I've been in the program now for almost the better part of 6 months. So yeah, I think. What was your question again? Say it again. Sorry.
Yeah, just some of your biggest takeaways, and when I say that, I mean really like again, not like the secrets and all that kind of stuff, but like what is it that really opened your eyes to like that? You spent a good chunk of change. I think it's like $10,000 to do this program, right? Like, what have been some things that you, as an already established trainer, you went into it and you were like, wow, these are actually new concepts that are being explained to me in a way that I just didn't. That didn't resonate before, or you just didn't know before or whatever.
Yeah, no, of course. Like, so like the biggest thing for me is just like, getting the dogs to a place where every dog enjoys the training regardless of what the dog is and regardless of what the behavior issues are to some extent, right? Like, yeah, there's going to be rough moments during the training process, especially with behavior issues and stuff like that. But that doesn't mean the whole process needs to be like boot camp. Like, yeah, we're going you're coming to boot camp now and we're going to fix this issue and we're going to get you in line and your owner's going to reinforce this. Your owner's the drill sergeant now. Yeah. We don't need that. Like, dogs, no matter what the behavior concern is, in my opinion, really no dog needs that. Like, yes, there are some issues that need more structure, management, etc. But it's never, like maybe you've heard the term, like the gun to the head terminology. Maybe you've heard that before in regards to like behavior training and like e-collar use and stuff like that, where the dog, always needs to be under lock and key. They always need to be on their place bed. They always need to have that e-collar on and turned up and stuff. It's like, and this is all stuff I would have subscribed to previously, especially when dealing with these more significant behavior modification cases. But now going through the course, I realize like there's a totally different way to do it. There's a totally different way to look at it. And it gets you to a much better place with the dog and with the owner, like there's something like owners, especially like them seeing their dogs just happy and enjoying training, especially a dog that maybe was nervous and fearful and aggressive, even them seeing their dogs like opening up and enjoying things maybe they're not, maybe that doesn't mean they're seeing their dogs, walking around Lowe's or something like that with a muzzle on and their tail down, ears tucked back or anything like that. Maybe it means they're seeing their dog chase a ball in a park or something near a pathway where there's other dogs walking around. And that's what this individual dog's capabilities are. And this is what it enjoys doing. And this is what you can do with this dog. Like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, we do have this aggressive dog that we need to train, but maybe it's not going to enjoy going to a place like, Home Depot with a patio with you, but there's all these other things you can do with it to help it enjoy life. It doesn't need to be just constant stress and management and punishment, right? And so that's one of the biggest things for me, like just learning how to take on these more severe cases with a different approach that gets you to a way better place. And I look at things like, I look at other trainers, I don't want to say any names because it's like, and I like these people, I respect these people, but these people that deal with like significant behavior modification stuff, like, these aggressive dogs, so to speak, right? Where, they show the dog coming into the building with a muzzle on, trying to lunge at the trainer. And then the trainer's like taking the leash and like right away they're cutting to them doing e-collar work to teach the dog to come closer to them with e-collar stim. Like the dog's terrified of them, has a muzzle on and wants to leave them.
The old reverse perception trick. The old reverse perception trick. Yeah.
Yeah. And so like, and again, I used to do this stuff, but now that I see that there's so many better ways to do it, I don't subscribe to it. It's like, I see the silliness of it, but yeah, you see the dog still clearly terrified of being anywhere near them or in that room with them. Sure, it's coming to you, but it's not for the right reasons. And that's the big thing is like, getting dogs to do things for the right reasons, right? Not just getting them to do things because we can, or because we think that that's what they need to be doing. It's like, just take a couple extra days and get that dog to want to approach you. Yeah, that might mean maybe that means you need to wear a bite suit for the first 2 days handling this dog. Maybe that means your kennel techs can't take it out. Maybe it means you actually have to do the dirty work kind of thing for a couple of days of dealing with it until you can build a real relationship with the dog, right? And we talked about it last time where it's like, unless you do that, unless you actually take the time to build that relationship, you never actually get to know the dog. You never train that dog. You're training some different version of that dog that's in your presence versus the dog that's going to go home to that owner, which is a dog that has a relationship with its owner. And it's, you know, I'm not saying you need to let it do all the stupid shit that the owner lets it do, but you still need to, the dog needs to be itself before you can actually train that dog. Right. Yeah. You know, and that's, I think that unless you know how to do that, especially with a fearful dog, especially with like an aggressive dog, you're not going to get to the same place. You know, it's just going to be suppression, and it's not going to look good. The dog's not going to be happy. The owner might be, you know, somewhat happy at first until they realize their dog's just like, you know, a crippled mess or a shut down mess. And then they get tired of it quick, and, you know, the suppression goes away kind of thing. And it's, you know, you go down a rabbit hole with that. But like I said, that's the biggest difference, is just knowing how to take on these cases from a different lens of like, you know, what is this dog capable of doing? What does this dog want to do? And what can I use to kind of harness that to make the dog better, right? To kind of fix some of these issues, to give the dog back to the owner with a more confident and capable dog. You know, again, there's always limitations on what we can do with every dog, and understanding that is so important, because again, it's like, you know, I might have, like a year ago or a year and a half ago, I might have taken a dog in and be like, yeah, we could get this dog to go on a patio. Yeah, we could get this dog to walk around Lowe's, and we can get this dog to, you know, sit on its place bed in a room full of strangers and stuff like that. It's like, we can get it to do that stuff too, like through the TWC method and stuff, but it's not like, that's not what our sole focus is. That's not what we're going into our training program focused on, right? That's like going to be a byproduct of the training, is getting the control in the relationship with the dog, where we can ask them to do these things, or we can put them in these difficult situations and they kind of trust and have the confidence to get through it when we need to do it, you know?
Yeah.
But again, like, you know, there's certain dogs that they don't need to do that stuff, you know?
Yeah. I like that. You know, it's, just piggybacking off of your example of that, you know, I joke the reverse perception trick that, you know, we've seen obviously trainers do before with dogs, and just using that whole sequence, right? Of like, you know, in day one, we're taking this dog that's coming in and aggressing on people, right? We're taking them, they're stopping the aggressing, obviously, for whatever reason, whether they corrected it, whether they just realized, oh, I'm stuck with this person now and aggressing isn't working, so I'm just going to kind of internalize it, shut down, or whatever it may be. And then, you know, we go right into this now, forcing the dog to be in like really close proximity to us, using a lot of pressure, right? Using a lot of escape training, stuff like that. And it's like, what I've really, I feel like, tried to look at over the last like year or so, like with my training, is like this approach of like less is more. And if I'm going to be like really firm on one thing, or put the dog in a position that's going to be really stressful, which could not even involve corrections. It could just be that the dog is with me now, and that's very stressful. And that in itself has kind of suppressed the aggression, right? Let the dog be successful with that for a little bit before I then jump to the next hurdle, to allow them to build some confidence in this new situation that they're put in, right? Or build some confidence in understanding that they can avoid whatever consequence I provided, right? Whether it's, you know, the dog came in and it was just a massive jumper and I corrected it for jumping, or whatever, right? And I feel like a lot of people, they get past the initial hurdle. Like, it's like, okay, cool, this dog came here and the dog isn't biting us, which is what we want it to not do, right? Whether, again, the dog is just doing it because they're just realizing it doesn't work, or they got corrected for it, whatever. That's a different debate. And instead of just letting them realize, oh, okay, I could be around this person, not bite them, and everything's okay, and they're not doing all of this horrible stuff to me that I had this perception that they were going to do to me, et cetera, and allow them to be confident with that, we just immediately change the goalposts to, now we have this new expectation we're going to create a lot of stress through, and they just perpetually go through the training process of moving from one really stressful thing to the next one, to the next one, to the next one, with no time to just understand how to like be a dog and be confident in what they're doing. And I don't know where it comes from. I don't know if it just comes from like, we have these like visual and mental, like, I don't know, like goals and this picture of what this dog needs to be able to do 3 weeks from now or 4 weeks from now or what, but you lose sight of like, what is it the person hired you for, right? Yeah. Like for example, we had this dog come in just last weekend from Chicago and spent the weekend with me, right? And the dog was here because the dog didn't know how to socialize well with other dogs, right? Now, she had some other goals of like some obedience training, she wanted to do some like off-leash work with the dog, this and that. But the major goal she came in for was this dog socializing appropriately with other dogs, right? And we put a lot of our emphasis into that. We were able to get the dog really, relatively confident with other dogs, trying to play, interact. We had a good game plan for how to socialize this dog. And I knew with the limited amount of time I had, if simultaneously I tried to really pressure the dog into a lot of like formal obedience training and just a lot of the stuff that didn't really matter a whole lot, that I was going to kill all of this confidence that I created in this one area, right? So instead of being like, well, we have the time, we'll do this, right? Or we'll do this, I chose to pick and choose what I was going to work on because I knew what the actual goal the client had was.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think a lot of trainers would just be like, all right, check, got the socialization good, now on to the next thing, right? And I think that's where a lot of trainers really shoot themselves in the foot with not letting the dog just have a good time. And start to enjoy the process.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly it. It's like you said too, it's like that checklist of behaviors you got to focus on. Like, okay, I got to get the dog to day 1, sit, day 1 down, day 2, place, day 2, place, stay kind of thing. Right. And they're just going through the motions with every dog as if it's the same dog and same situation. Right. And again, you can, even with 3 weeks, like you can still get to the same place with a different way. That's more motivating, more dog centric, like we mentioned last time, where it's like, it's you're getting to the same place, but it's it's a much better way to do it, I guess, obviously, right? Much less stressful to some extent for the dog, much more motivating for the dog, right? And that's the way that it should be done. But yeah, like it's easy to get stuck. Like if you have 3 weeks and the owner, gives you this list of demands that they need their dog to do, like you can get stuck in like, okay, I got to get all this stuff done. I got to check these things off, right? Got to make sure I got to get the dog to, out in public and around kids and stuff like that. When it's really like, just tell the owner, it's like, hey, like, I'm going to need extra time to accomplish these things in a way that's like, beneficial for your dog. Or maybe it's just like, maybe your dog just doesn't do these things right now, and we focus on some other stuff first, right? There's always conversations that can be had with the owners to kind of steer them in the right direction, because sometimes they also don't necessarily know what they want. They see these things on Instagram, like I said, they see like these muzzled dogs in downstays with like dogs running past them and walking past them and stuff like that, and it's like they don't see that the dog is actually miserable, and they're like, hey, I want my dog to do that. It's like, well, yeah, like we could get your dog to do that, but why? Like, is it beneficial? Like, is there a reason why your dog needs to do that? Would your dog enjoy doing that? And these are all questions that need to be asked. And owners at the end of the day appreciate it when you ask them that stuff, and they appreciate it when you're honest with them about that kind of stuff. Instead of lie to them, like a lot of trainers will do that. Like, you get a dog that's like, maybe they don't like kids, maybe they're fearful of that kind of thing, right? And it's like, a trainer will tell them, yeah, we could get your dog to, be managed around kids. You just have to put them on place and hold them accountable to their place and stuff when the kids are around and stuff like that. And it's like, or you could tell them, it's like, your dog's probably not going to be comfortable around kids. So just when there's kids out, put them in a crate, make sure he's played in the morning and you've done some stuff with him, put him in the kennel when the kids are around kind of thing. And then take him out and do some individual activities later on, instead of make him lay on the place bed the whole day with a muzzle on or whatever the other idea is, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's expectation setting is everything. I mean, any good trainer knows, like, you can't, like you have to calibrate the expectations that your client is going to have coming into things. It's funny, I had a similar example recently. I was working with a client that has 2 dogs that get in fights with each other, right? And the dogs have been really good for like 3 years, right? And they had a fight recently with these dogs, right? And any issue they've ever had with these dogs in the past have been exclusively around when guests are over the house, right? Outside of that, 0 issues, a lot of success. It's just the overstimulation of guests coming over, and particularly when the guests are over, when they're kind of watching the game, having some drinks, rules start to get a little loose, whatever, they have an incident, right? And it was just, I went over there and I was just like, why don't you just not have the dogs out when guests are over? Like, how much do you actually have guests over the house? It's like, well, maybe once a week or something for a couple hours. It's like, okay, just put the dogs away,
Yeah.
Right? Like we could spend all this time looking at like, oh, well, there's this solution and this solution. And yeah, just like place the whole time guests are over to start to reduce the arousal and blah, blah, blah. But it's like, you also could just eliminate all of the stress for the dogs and for yourself and just put the dogs away when guests come over the house. And I think as trainers, sometimes we feel like an answer like that is us not doing our job. Right? Or it's us taking the easy way out, or it's that we don't know how to solve the problem or anything, you know? But in actuality, so many issues can be solved by just understanding what situations to put your dog in and what situations not to put your dog in. Yeah. Right?
Yeah. Again, it can be torture for the dog. Like I said, a lot of these trainers will give solutions to clients that are torture for the dog, where it's like you said, it's, the guests are over. It's torture for the owners too. You know, guests are over. You want to have a good time, but no, you got to sit there and watch your dog to make sure it's not launching itself off the bed to eat a guest. When, you said, you just put it in the kennel and it'll be fine. You know, especially if it's, again, there might be things that can be done in those situations, but is it worth it? Is it necessary to do it? Probably not. You know, and again, if you're looking at what's the best option for the dog, what's the least conflicting approach, that might very well be it. And like you said, it's like trainers think that it's like an easy way out to say that kind of thing. But at the end of the day, it's responsible, you know?
Yeah.
It really is the responsible thing to tell people. It's again, I don't think it's like we talked to about like, it kind of seems like, counterintuitive to what we talked about before about like, using a long line to stop a dog from chasing cars is just like, that's aversive and lifelong management. It's like, it's a different context. It's a different situation. That's something that like restricts a dog from, living an actual life kind of thing versus like you said, like you got guests come over a couple times a week, put the dog in the kennel.
Yeah.
That is what it is. Right. And again, it's like, there's even times where you have to have that real conversation of maybe if you have guests over every single night of the week, cause you're just that kind of couple.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not the dog for you,
Sure.
Maybe it is time to have that conversation, right? And a lot of people don't want to have that conversation too, right?
Yeah.
And owners, the best thing they can do is find that out early on kind of thing, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the other difference between like how we were talking about like the long line outside versus like just putting the dog away and certain things is in one example, you're putting the dog in the position to be subject to doing these things and trying to micromanage them in the moment when they try to do those things. The other is just strategically not putting them in a position to rehearse it in the first place so that they don't feel that restriction, restraint, and micromanagement. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I think that's the big difference on why one is like so much worse than the other.
Yeah. I think.
Yeah. And then you look at it. Oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. Go ahead.
You look at it like I said, like you said, like it's like the easy way out. And then there's also trainers like you might look at it like, well, no, I know like if the dog is with me, or maybe the dog was with you, and maybe we're doing these things with you during the training. Yeah. Maybe you could have the dog out when new people came into the building and easy stuff like that that's complicated for the owners but easy for you. But the owners just for whatever reason can't get to that point, right? Yeah. And there, again, there's situations where it's like you have to understand what the owner is capable of as well, right? And work within those parameters of what the owner is capable of. And that's a big thing a lot of trainers miss too, is like not looking at the owner and what they're going to be capable of. It's one thing that you can get the dog to do all this flashy obedience in a busy public place, but what's the owner going to be able to do, right? What's the owner going to be able to accomplish? Is it going to look the same as that?
Yeah.
And are you training the dog to go home to the owner, or are you training it to go home to another dog trainer? Because the dog's not going home to a dog trainer. It's going home to an owner. And you gotta, you might have to dumb things down. You might have to simplify things to make that as successful as it can be. And that can be one of the hardest things to learn as a new trainer is that approach. Because it's like again, you see how, certain people do all this training and stuff, and it can be easy to try to mimic that. But then again, is the owner going to be able to match that? Is the owner going to be able to keep up with that? That's another big question you have to ask, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You mentioned something earlier where, you were talking about like, sometimes I don't remember if you said owners or specifically, but some owners just like want to like, especially when they have an aggressive dog, right? Or a really anxious dog or a fearful dog, they want to be able to see somewhere where the dog is just like really enjoying themselves, And I think if we could achieve that And we could get them to a place where it's like, okay, listen, like, there might be some hurdles, right? There might be some places you need to crack down on your dog a little bit, right? And get on them. But here are all of these areas where we could provide a great time for your dog and show them that not, everything we do is going to be terrible, right? We're not going to put them constantly in all these bad positions. I find owners are also just so much more accepting of some of the hard work that they might need to do in other places because, it's not they don't feel like they're always, like you use like the gun to the head analogy, right? And like constantly like micromanaging in place and down and all of that kind of stuff. And for me, that's always been like socialization, right? I think that the socialization side of things, when the amount of owners that I've had literally cry in front of me the first time they watch their dog play with another dog, right, is like, it's unbelievable. And it could be socialization from that context, or it could just be socialization in the form of like, your dog doesn't need to be on place all the time. We could just guide their behaviors a little more and teach them to kind of make their own decisions so they could loosen up and have fun, and we could play with them and stuff like that. I think that is so big. And that I still to this day find is the missing link I see with a lot of trainers is they focus too much on the management and control side of things, and they never excel past that to the point of just allowing the dog to be a dog and make their own choices, and live this life where they could exist within X parameter of rules that we ultimately set, but outside of that, they're free to be an independent creature and have fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I honestly, I think that's like the $1 million secret sort of thing. Right. And again, it's like, it's one of the things that for me, like TWC helped uncover, but it's, even if you don't go through that course and you figure that out, it's great. But it's like, and again, like, I don't want to make it sound like because it's not like, it's not an excuse for not doing the training, but at the same time, it's like, an owner is going to be way more satisfied. You're going to make way more money from a business perspective. And that's what I mean by like the $1 million secret from a business perspective. Like as a trainer and a business owner, or if you own a training business, you're going to make so much more money by making happy dogs and happy clients instead of unhappy dogs and maybe like, momentarily happy clients, but that does not last, right? That will not last. I guarantee it. Right. And you can only burn so many of those bridges before you run out of clients kind of thing. And it's like one of the eye-opening things for me, and it's like I said, it's not an excuse for not doing the training. Like my only goal when I bring in a dog that's aggressive and fearful isn't just to get it wagging its tail and throwing a ball in my acreage area where there's nothing around here. Like, no, we do need to do some stress. The dog does need to kind of, become more confident in certain situations. That's a guaranteed part of the training process. And we're going to get through these things. But at the same time, we're going to make sure that the dog is enjoying the process, right? Like I said, it's like an owner is going to be way more likely to come back with another dog or for more training and business if they see that their dog left the training better than when they came, and happy, just as happy or happier is typically the case. Usually happier is because we've dealt with the behavior issues than when they came. And for me, like the big one is like when you send a dog home and they come back, and they're more excited to come into your building and run up to you and see you than they are to even be with or even like, again, like it's really fun when it's like you have a midway session, like the owners come for some training during the board and train, and the dog's super excited to see the owner. They run over and say hi to the owner, then they run right back to you and they're all excited and happy to see you too. Nothing feels better than that. Really nothing in the world. Versus, again, like a year and a half ago when I used to train and the way I used to train, it would be very much the opposite of that. It would be like the owners would come in, the dog would be super excited. They'd go over and get excited to see the owner. Then I'd try to get the dog to come back and train with me. And it's like the dog doesn't want to do anything with you. It's like, no, my owner's here. F you, dude. And if you have that issue, if that's something you're seeing, there's a problem with the way you're training. There 100% is a problem with the way you're training if that's what you're seeing, That's my thoughts on that. Like you want to see a dog. And that's what I mean, like the $1 million secret. It's clients come back more frequently now. Clients are willing to pay more money. They're willing to do more like added on training and stuff with you if they know their dog's having a good time. Like we offer day training programs. We offer boarding and stuff for past clients. We're doing a group class right now too. I guarantee we wouldn't have people signing up for these things if they thought their dogs weren't going to enjoy what they were doing. Like, especially like day training, If they thought the dogs were coming here to be like put on place for 6 hours, they wouldn't do it. They wouldn't do the day training, right? but they know that their dog's here having a good time playing, off leash, socializing, all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
And it's something you mentioned, I think recently, it's like maybe the owners can't necessarily get to that level with the dogs themselves, but just the fact that they can bring the dog back to you and see their dog running and playing with other dogs, that's enough for them. And for me, that's enough, again, it's not an excuse to just not do the work with the owner, but at the same time, there's certain situations you have to look at it from a realistic lens,
Yeah, absolutely. I think you mentioned in the last episode we did, you were talking about, the concept of, training a dog in drive, right? And I forgot exactly the context of how we were discussing it, but you mentioned, like the problem is not, that the dog gets aroused and we need to stop the dog from getting aroused. But if you never address control, the dog controlling its drive, I think something along those lines, right? You're never really gonna get kind of the true results you want to see back home when the dog is inevitably in drive in situations. And I would almost like associating that to like what we're talking about right now, I would almost shift that a little bit of just like when you see the dog being its true self, right? Like when the dog is comfortable enough in your facility or your house or with the trainer or whatever it may be, where it's going to do all of those quirky little things that they do with the owner, right? You're never actually seeing the entire dog enough to be able to really feel like you're going to have your best fighting chance when they go home. I've seen so many dogs that, when they first come in and they're nervous and stuff like that, like they don't do half of the things that they would do at home. And then the second they start getting comfortable enough, right? And you start seeing them do the fucking weird smile because they're all happy to see you. And you could realize that, it's actually not aggression. It's just the dog smiling or, they roll around in a certain way and get all amped up and do zoomies around the house with their hackles up growling, right? And you realize like, that's actually not, that's them just playing, right? That's not, this problem that the owner may think it is or any number of different things. If you're not seeing all of those things, do you really know the dog well enough to help the owner overcome some of those hurdles that they have at home,
Yeah. Well, and that goes into like, and I'm sure young trainers will appreciate this because this is like, again, it's one of those big secrets that, and you can learn it the hard way or you can listen to this and learn it the easy way. It's like, if you get a dog in from an owner that's like you said, like an aggressive or fearful dog, and it comes in and maybe it's like, it's barking and lunging at you on the end of the leash when it comes in with the owner, and you put a muzzle on it, you take the leash from the owner and you yank and crank it around for a few days and suppress it, put an e-collar on it, whatever. And you do all this stuff and you're like, oh, see, I fixed it. I'm such a good trainer. Look at me. Now look at your posting on Instagram. Look at this dog passing all these dogs in the park. Again, suppressed, right? On day 4 of the board and train or whatever it is, or week 1 of the board and train. It's like, good job, buddy. And then it's like, now you send that dog home, or now the owner comes to work with the dog, or maybe the dog even is, and again, I'm just talking from experience. Sure. That's what I mean from learning it the hard way. It's like, you give the leash back to the owner on the go home day and you go to the park thinking the dog's going to do what it did with you. And the fucking dog explodes at every dog that walks by. And you're like, oh shit, like maybe I'm not that good of a trainer after all. And that's a tough lesson to learn.
Yeah.
But it's something you have to learn the hard way unless you hear somebody give you that advice or tell you that, because it's what you see on social media and it's what it's like preached as the way to do it. But again, it's going to happen if you're training with if you're training with that mindset and in that way, you're going to run into that problem. And maybe it's not when you hand the leash off, maybe it's a week later, maybe it's a month later. But those problems are going to come back if all you did was suppress it, especially from day 1,
Yeah, and I always try to caveat a lot of this stuff with like, obviously, association is a very powerful thing, right? When the dog goes home and they're back in an environment they're super comfortable with, they have a lot of patterns there, they're with an owner that they have a very strong, positive or negative relationship, whatever it may be. Like, yes, it's going to be inevitable that at some point you'll probably run into a situation with a really reactive dog where you go to the park after your training and the dog goes right back to trying to act like they were before. Like, that will happen. I think the problem is when I see trainers where they're saying it's happening every single time they work with a dog. You know what I mean? When you're seeing it like such a pattern that it's like every dog you work with, you're consistently getting unhappy clients because the results aren't transferring over, or the dog reverting back to every single behavioral issue that they exhibited before going, back home or before coming to your training or any of that kind of stuff. If it is a really, really serious pattern that you're seeing, I think that's really where you need to start recalibrating what you're doing, because there shouldn't be that much conflict associated with the transition back home with every dog you're working with.
Yeah. And I mean more when it's like, especially when you're like surprised by it, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, point. Okay, like, you know, and like when you're like, okay, like the dog was doing so good, I had no idea the owner was gonna take this leash and it's gonna react. And then you're left with like, now how do you fix it, right? Like, what do you do? It wasn't part of. So like for me, and that's like what you said, it's like I go into my training program expecting that to happen. I expect when I give that leash back to the owner, the dog is gonna do the shit it used to do, but I have a rundown of ways that they're going to fix it. I know exactly what to do to fix or what to tell the owner to do. We've worked on these concepts and worked on these principles and stuff, right? But if you haven't done that, and if you don't have like maybe a plan B or like a further ideas for the owner to get through that, then you're going to be, you're going to leave them stranded. And that happens with so many trainers, especially here, where it happens way too much here, I think, where it's like we'll get calls from people that said, they went to X trainer and X class, and they just kept doing the same thing, saying, oh, turn the e-collar up, oh, use your prong collar a little harder, etc. And it never actually, like, they never get to it, and then they just ghost the client. They're just okay, I don't have any more answers for you. I don't actually know what to do. Right? Whereas if you know what to do right from the beginning, it can be easy to kind of prevent some of that stuff. Or if you're honest with the owner, like you said, like we talked about before, and you say like, there's going to be situations where the dog blows up, but you know how to control and correct it, get things back to a good place, and know how to prevent that from happening the next time, But if you're not prepared for that, then you're going to look like an idiot, and the owner's going to see that, and they're going to know you're an idiot, Owners see that stuff. They know, they know when you
they can tell when you're not confident,
walk and the dog reacts.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're just saying, oh, well, just turn the e-collar up. Oh, turn it up again. Oh, yeah, just turn it up some more, kind of thing. That's like, they know when something's not working.
Yeah, it's tough, right? Like it really is. The problem is when you're not ready for it, right? And there's so many different examples. Like you mentioned, like the turning up the e-collar side of things, right? Like there's definitely situations where like dogs will go home, and the problem is that they're trying to revert back to using a freaking level 5 to stop their dog from reacting. And the answer is turn up the e-collar higher, right? But when you're relying, so when you're not looking at all of the variables again of understanding how toxic owner's relationship is with their owner and all of the variables outside of the correction they're giving in the moment, that's really where I think the problem kind of lies with a lot of stuff. And it's funny you were saying like I kind of go into all of my send homes and stuff as well, and I try to get my trainers to like hope for the best, expect for the worst kind of thing, like, because at this point, like, you've trained a shit ton of dogs. I trained a shit ton of dogs. Like I used to try to guess all day, like which dogs were going to like do what when they saw their owners again for the first time. And in the past, like I was generally wrong a lot of the times. Like the dogs that would go bananas when they saw their owners were the ones I thought were going to be cool as a cucumber, and vice versa. So I just kind of, I always instruct owners like, anything your dog tried to do before coming here for training, they are probably going to try to do it again, but we're going to have game plans on how to address those things, right?
Exactly.
It's to be expected. We'll get past it. I think the other big problem here too is too many trainers look at like the send home lesson and their first follow-up as like programs complete then at that point, which I think that's one of the biggest changes we made to our programs over the last, 3 years, whatever it is we really don't have a timeline on it at this point. I would say regularly the standard is I'll do about 6 hours of training with a client post board and train, but in many cases it teeters more towards 8 to 10 hours, I would say, and that could be broken up over, 2 months, or that could be broken up over 6 months or whatever it may be. But like, they got to get through the freaking hurdles that they get back home. Then they got to get through the honeymoon period of they think they're past everything and everything feels really good, but like it's actually just like their own freaking perception of like, oh, I spent all this money on training and I put in a little bit of work and things are better than they were before, but actually, I'm still not as on things and doing the things that I need to do to get the results. Then they got to make the adjustments they got to make, and like that's not even an amount of sessions thing. That's just a time thing. The owners need to go through a couple months of working with the dog and see how this stuff fits into their life and make some mistakes and all of that before they really get to a place where they're stable. And if you don't have that built into your program, you're going to wind up with a lot of unhappy clients because they're going to go through that. And then 5 months later, when they inevitably have some problems and they need help with those, you're going to be like, yeah, give me more money, bro. And then they're going to be like, I just paid you $4,000 for this. What do you mean give me more money? Right? And you just that kind of goes back into just, I don't even know if it's expecting the worst and hoping for the best as much as it is just having, real expectations that you're setting on the client.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So we just started our like a graduate group class we just launched. So basically that's kind of our supplement for people that have been through a training program with us that want to do some further training but don't want to spend the price on like an individual private session, which can add up if you're doing multiple. So we're doing a graduate group class, which is just, it's a cheaper version of basically our sessions where they come in. There's six people that have already been through a training program. So they know the fundamentals. We don't need to get into like the really basic stuff of like how to use the equality. They should all know this stuff. And we're able to just kind of dive right into some cool setups and stuff that they can't otherwise do in any other situation, whether it's like setting up pass-bys with new dogs because they haven't really met each other, setting up obedience training sessions inside of our facility and stuff like that. So it really gives the owners a safe, comfortable environment to practice this stuff. And again, do setups and stuff. Like we just had our first one yesterday. So we kind of covered like just learning where all the dogs and stuff were at, where each owner was at with their training. A few of the dogs were still a little bit reactive and stuff, so we were able to kind of work on that. But it's cool because it's like, you could take the dog to Lowe's and it's reactive, but maybe it's maybe not one of those situations where you can comfortably use the correction necessary to stop that behavior. And so we can bring the dog into an environment like this and really do what we need to do to get stuff under control. Yeah. And then they can expand on that from there, And so we can put these dogs into these situations, put these owners into these situations. In a group environment, and it's just no judgment. Nobody's going to get upset for them them for correcting their dog. Nobody's going to get upset for them for walking their dog around close to other dogs and stuff like that. And then we can also work on just building, making it fun for the dogs too, and making sure it's a good environment for the dogs to be around all the people and the other dogs and stuff.
Yeah, I dig that. Another thing is that I feel like I've kind of flipped my stance on, I would say. And I don't even know if I had a stance on this, like from the standpoint of I thought it was ineffective. I don't think that was it. But from a business standpoint, we never used to do a lot of in-home lessons, just because you tack on the travel, expense with it and the time it takes to travel. And then you're driving all over the freaking world to go work with clients and stuff like that. But as a follow-up option, dude, we do so many in-home lessons with people at this point, like near the end of their program, once things are going well, but there's some extra things we want to fine tune. Cause I just think there's so much to seeing the dog in their actual environment. You know what I mean? And helping owners be able to visualize the real problems they're having, not in like a mock-up situation, like in a training facility or at a park they don't ever go to or anything like that. I found that to be so unbelievably valuable as far as like expediting some of the learning process for clients as well. That's another thing, like getting into like, we try to like build a lot of this stuff into the cost of the program. Cause I really look at like, if you've paid me for training, right? If I've advertised a board and train is going to be the solution for working past whatever issue it is that you're hiring me for, I just can't take more. I just can't take more money from people. You know what I mean? So we've built it into the cost of the program, and whether we got to do an in-home lesson or go to a park, or I've got a freaking client that lives like almost 3 hours away from us that I drove down to their house and did 2 in-home lessons with them just because it just needed to be done. And we were able to get the results we needed to get with them, and it worked out. But it's like, did I want to eat up 2 entire fucking days driving down and working with this client? Like, no, but they also paid me, $4,500 for dog training. So guess what? I'm fucking doing what I need to do. Right?
Yeah.
And I think if trainers just looked at that,
no, I agree with that 100%.
I think they'd really have a lot happier of clients, and they probably would have more successful clients because of it. So, but yeah, the in-homes, those have been huge.
No, I agree with that. No, I think that's super important. I think it's like critical for behavior modification and stuff. It's difficult when you can't do those kinds of in-home lessons because you rely on like virtual and stuff like that. And it can be, there's definitely, it's not the same, as being able to actually go and see the owner and the dog in their environment doing things, that's very important. Even just, making sure we have like video of the owners working with the dogs and stuff. That's always tough. It's like pulling teeth to ask owners to get video of their dog doing this shit.
It's so hard.
No, it's so important. It's so important, but never happens. You can ask it all day.
Hard.
There's this, I don't know if you've ever seen it on the Facebook pages, but there's this dog trainer. His name's like, I think J. Randy Davis is his name. And he's always posting on the forums and stuff like that. But he's always like giving these really good detailed answers, but he's always says, but we need to see a video of the dog.
Yeah.
And it's like, nobody ever gives him the video of the dog. And it's like, he's got the answer, I'm sure, but if you don't give him the video, he's not going to get it. It's so funny. But yeah, same with asking clients for or videos and stuff. It's just, you almost never get it,
Yeah.
But I get it. It can be difficult to hold a camera while your dog's freaking out, and it's embarrassing.
Yeah.
But sometimes we need to see those things to give an answer if we can't be there in person. We can't always be. So
yeah. We do.
No, the in-home one is important. I was going to say the in-home is important. It's like, like crucial.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when you have the ability to do it, you're just going to see so much, But yeah, the video, that's hilarious. Like the amount of times I ask a client, just send me a video of you trying what you're trying. And they're just like, they just can't do it. They just cannot do it. I'm like, damn, man. All right. Well, we'll figure it out. Yeah.
Yeah. That's funny.
I do a decent amount of virtual calls. Actually, I have one shortly after this that I'm doing with somebody. But there's a big difference between the clients that have the ability to set something up where I could actually watch them train their dog like via the Zoom call versus the ones where it's just, they're just not technologically savvy enough to figure that out. And we kind of have to just like talk through it and then have them try it and then talk through it again after and stuff like that. It is such a massive difference. I had a couple clients I was working with where they were able to like set up like a little tripod and then they would wear like AirPods so they could be away from the camera and still hear me and be talking to me at the same time and all that kind of stuff, man. If every client could figure that out, it's like, we'd be able to do a shit ton more. That's for sure.
Good luck. Sir.
That's something I want to start doing too, is the virtual sessions. So I was going to ask how you kind of set that up like that, but that sounds pretty simple. But that's something we need to start doing as well. Because just a lot of clients just we're pretty central, like where we are, like in our province, but people travel a long ways, to come for training and stuff. So it's nice to have that virtual option for them for sure.
What I think the virtuals are good for is not training the dog. Right? Like I'm not teaching you how to do downstays and bed stays and all that kind of stuff, but it's more about figuring out why your dog is doing the things that they're doing and helping you make the day-to-day adjustments you need to make to help combat those things. That's where I find that they're the most effective. And I think it forces you to be, for other people that are just doing like, private lessons or whatever it may be. I think it forces you to be a better trainer when you can't rely on like, we're going to like spend all this time on like obedience and this and that. And you really can get to the root cause of the problem, because so much of it is obviously like, why does a dog behave this way with you, but not with somebody else or whatever it may be? Like generally there is a massive, massive human component at play and you're doing something to nurture the problem. Right. And there's so much you could do that involve not doing extra things, but stopping doing certain things that alone, you could see such massive progress with your dogs,
Yeah. That kind of goes into like, it's kind of a segue, but goes in, I think again, you kind of mentioned it, like with that video that's been going around of that trainer that's like videoing the client getting eaten by her Malinois. He's like standing back and not doing anything. And it's like, it's like, that's not how you want to do that hands-off approach to training. There's no excuse for that, but there can be a big benefit into like, especially when we're talking severe behavior cases, really just not touching the dog if you don't have to, like there's, especially as of lately, I've been doing lots of private sessions where it's like, eventually I'm going to get my hands on the dog, but it's not goal number one is not to take the leash from the owner and just, show them that I can control the dog. Yeah. That's like big fucking deal. Like, again, it goes back into that conversation of it doesn't matter what you can do. It matters what the owner can do. And there's something kind of fun too about challenging yourself as a trainer to deal with these problematic cases without actually, but it's like kind of fun to challenge yourself like that and not put your hands on the dog and just see like, okay, what can I talk this owner through and how far can we get? And like if you see something like what's happening in those videos that other guy put out, our names aren't associated. That other guy put out, but you see those, it's like there's no excuse for that. That's not like there's a time and place to jump in when a dog is being just too out of control for the owner to even see an ounce of hope. Sometimes that can be one of the things we need to do is just like show them like, hey, like no, your dog can do this. But at the same time, it's like if you can do it without putting your hands on the dog, sometimes that's a great way to do it. Stress-free for the dog, gets the owner to challenge themselves and really learn what they need to do.
Yeah, and it's like the owner needs to be coached eventually. Like I understand it's a little bit different of an example because there is some things like there is a human component and a dog component when it comes to dog training, obviously. And there are skills you could teach a dog as the trainer to make it easier to coach the owner through it, obviously. But like I look at it like when I was taking like golf lessons, for example, like the instructor could have sat there and hit 9,000 golf balls in front of me. And that's not going to make it any easier for me to then go and make the adjustments to my swing that I need to make. You know what I mean? So, and I think a lot of times people just do like the trainer working with the dog because they're not confident enough in their skills to be able to coach the human through the things that they need to do, right? Which is just you're delaying the inevitable of they're just not going to get the knowledge that they need at that point, right? So yeah, I agree with you completely on that. I think that the ability to like talk the person through things in real time is so essential, Just
make sure you get to them before their clothes turn into Swiss cheese.
Yeah, right.
I was gonna say,
I'd be so
that's
pissed.
Crazy that whole situation. So like, did you?
What's up?
Did you like? when that came out, I knew right from the beginning like who that guy was. I don't know if you guys. Did you follow that guy before this whole situation? Yeah.
I remember I talked about it a little bit on the podcast we did the other day. I
haven't listened to that one yet.
Yeah, it's nothing super juicy, but whatever. It's the guy. The guy I was friends with him on Facebook for a long time, like not business profiles, just like person to person Facebook friends, right? Yeah. And I've never interacted with him before in my life, but I would always see the things that he would post, and he's just he's an ambitious guy. You know what I mean? Whatever. Like the dude's always had like 8 gazillion different like agencies and like marketing companies and this and that he's tried to create and whatever. And it's like, I mean? Go ahead.
I think it's mental illness on full display is what I think, because I've been following him for quite a while too on his like Instagram and his Facebook. And I think he's severely mentally ill. Like I think he literally has a perception of himself. What's that? Like a grandiose perception. What's that called? Like whatever that psychological term is. But I think he has this perception of himself that is narcissism? So far from what reality is.
Is that the word?
No? Yeah, like he literally is so far from reality with who he actually is that it's like kind of mind-blowing. And I think like through his Instagram, like because he did have a little bit of success and like 15 minutes of fame as a dog trainer for a little while. I mean, I think that's how I kind of found out about him.
Yeah.
But then like, you'd follow him and you'd see he's like on the side, he's doing like stand-up comedy and he's like, he's like a professional development coordinator. He's got like 6 different businesses. He's got like, it's 3 different dog training businesses, you know? And like all this shit. And then like, again, you see him sharing all this stuff. And even back then I thought it was mental illness,
Yeah.
But then I saw when this stuff was coming out with this girl, my first assumption was that he was staging the whole thing and that it was like,
we had some people on YouTube that were commenting that, like saying that they thought it was staged.
Yeah.
Which I don't know, man. I just don't think, I think that it is a little weird how it's like, like she left the review, right? She left him obviously a very positive review. Then all these videos came out, right? Then when it started blowing up, it became a problem. But like, we kind of like put the pieces together and like, obviously, like he probably knows a little bit about training a dog, where he could get the dog to like stop pulling a little bit, maybe not bite her as much, and all that kind of stuff. And we know that he's the king of trying to exploit things for views, right? Like that's like why he tried to start like an agency and stuff, is because he thinks he's like a social media wizard, right? And obviously from that lady's standpoint, she could have had a good experience, but then just realized she was getting exploited. And then at that point, how quickly it is for people to just shift their entire perception of maybe before they thought things were okay, but now it's like everything is, terrible and you're kind of just being a piece of shit now, which is why she kind of came out then and made her video and kind of backtracked on the review and like all that kind of stuff. The only thing that I said was we were watching like her response video that she made to him. I don't know if you saw that one or not, but she made a video basically like explaining everything that happened and all that.
I haven't seen the whole thing, but I saw some of it. Yeah.
Okay. So at one point in the video, though, she did say, she's like, my dog has absolutely never acted like this before, and he's never done this before. And the only reason why he did it is because he knew something was wrong with this Dylan guy, and he just didn't want me to leave him there anymore. To that part, I would say I've heard that conversation a million times before. Like, I definitely don't believe for 1 second that dog has never done that behavior before.
Yeah.
Like, that is like the only part that I would say.
I think it's more of like, if I had to look at it now that I've seen that stuff come out, like I don't really think it's set up anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, I still wouldn't necessarily put it past the whole thing was set up, but I don't think so. But I think it was more of like an owner that didn't know what they didn't know. You know, it's like,
yeah, sure.
I think she didn't realize that that's a really that's not what training should look like. I don't think she realized that that's not like how a Malinois should be behaving.
Yeah.
I'm sure he was there the whole time saying, no, this is what they do. They bite, they do all this. Yeah. I would even go as far as to say that I believe that the dog has never acted that way with her, to that extremeness, to that level of, to that level, because I think the dog is in a stressful situation. I think especially if it did just get dropped off for a board and train with this guy, and what she said is true. I think the dog was probably like just totally wound up and stressed out, get me out of this situation. And we've seen dogs do, crazy shit like that, when they're acting that way. And especially with a Malinois that's just over the top excited, if he's telling you to do all these different things that are just creating more frustration and stuff like that, then that kind of issue is going to come out. Versus if the owner just really let the dog live a pretty carefree life, it maybe never took that level of frustration out on her, or maybe not in that way. Maybe it came out in different ways.
I think if the
even then, I don't know.
But. Yeah, sure. Obviously, we're just making our best educated guesses here. Obviously, I think if I only saw the video of them trying to get the dog in the crate, I would say that, because like, clearly that dog was not going in that crate and was going to do anything that he needed to do to get that woman to not put him in that crate, right? But like, a lot of the other videos were just her in the yard trying to play tug with the dog, right? And the dog just kind of kept redirecting on her arm and her clothes and all of that. And it's like, I don't know. I mean, I guess we could say that was just bleeding over from maybe they did the crate stuff first and he was still wound up. Probably, like, hypothetically, yeah, I could understand that. I just don't know, man. That dog really seemed like, in a lot of the clips, not all of the clips, that he seemed like that was all just like a big game to him.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, that's why I thought it was staged, because it seemed like the dog like knew what he was doing. Like, it seemed like he knew to be gentle enough, and that the owner was like, seemed like the owner of the dog was like, yeah, this is what we do. Yeah, and then I did see like the blood and stuff, and it's like, okay, maybe it's just like some poor like immigrant woman that he hired or paid. And again, like, I'm not putting that past this Dylan guy to just give some person off the street $3,000 to like get bit by a Malinois for a couple hours for some videos and then like be on their way. I'm not saying that that's not possible. Yeah. But back to the whole mental illness thing. Now it's like, you look at I don't know if you saw like the replies he put on like that.
He had like the alligator mom. Oh yeah, he had like 1,000 comments that he was leaving on there.
That's what I mean. Like, that's the kind of thing that mental illness people, like people with mental illness do. And then you see, if you've looked at his Facebook page, which I went over there just the other day to see what was going on, and it's just him sharing years old videos and content of him getting good reviews and doing work with dogs. Yeah. Because again, I really think he's like in this position where he's like sees himself as somebody he's entirely not. It's like he thinks he's this big marketing, social media wizard, dog trainer guru, and I think it's all coming crashing down, and we're going to see a big mental illness break from him, and who knows what's going to happen.
Okay, so here's my follow-up question to that, right? So obviously this video has gone so bananas viral, like it's insane, not just from his original posts, but like everybody else that's posted at this point. Like, it's probably amassed hundreds of millions of views at this point, right? Excuse me.
Which is, again...
Which is insane.
Crazy. Like, that's almost so many makes you think views. That it could still be set up.
Right.
It's like, even if he never has to train another dog again or can't, he's probably pretty set for now.
So,
I mean...
So here's my question, right? So somebody commented on YouTube like just like an hour ago on like one of the clips that we posted of it and was like, oh, thank you for sharing this. We all need to stand together against, dog abuse and stuff like that. And this is where I'm like, I don't think that was dog abuse necessarily, right? Like, I think that was just shitty training.
Yeah, that was client abuse.
So, yeah, right. So like, I don't think that was dog abuse. I don't necessarily think this guy needs to go to jail over this. Now, like, the lady made some claims that like the dog was being poorly treated in his care and stuff like that. That's a separate conversation, you know. Obviously, if that's the case, like that's you teeter on the line a little bit right there. But just from a training standpoint, seeing those videos, that's just like he kind of just got exposed for shitty training, right? Yeah. So forget the does he have mental illness or does he not have mental illness? Just off this situation, how do you view like the court of public opinion? Obviously, it seems like if you read a lot of the things people are posting, some people are from the lens of this guy should never touch dogs ever again. Others are just saying this is horrible training and he should just not be a trainer anymore, this, that. Like, do you personally feel this guy needs quote unquote ramifications over this situation?
Yeah, I do. I think that girl needs to lawyer up and sue his ass for whatever, like fraud, sure. I guess, like incompletion of services, whatever she can sue him for, because there's enough video footage and probably enough professional opinion for her to win that case, you know? And that's I would also be suing for all of the money gained from all those videos. That's a big thing that I'd be doing if I was in her position. I'd be finding a lawyer that's going to get me every dollar that comes in from one of those videos, because that's my money. You know, you got taken advantage of. You exploited me. Yeah. It was fraudulent service. Yeah, exploitation. Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, exploited, right? And the services were never rendered clearly. That's obvious on video. Yeah. Now, again, if he has that review that says,
isn't that where it's tough though, because
things get hairy, but
right.
I'm going to court. I'm still going to court if I was her, you know?
Yeah.
You know, it's like I said, it's like you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah. I absolutely agree with you from the standpoint of like, if you're ever in a position with a trainer where it's like this person just fucking if you genuinely feel like this person scammed you out of money, right? Like we've seen a gazillion times before, people that hire somebody for training, that trainer not achieving absolutely anything for this client, right? And we're not even talking like situations with a client just didn't put in the work. We're just talking a trainer that failed a client, right? And then that trainer tries to just lean back into the fucking contract that says guarantees aren't, we don't fucking provide guarantees and this and that, and blah, blah, and says, no, fuck you, I'm not going to give you your money back. And then that client is just like, well, I guess I'm shit out of luck. And I think that's a big problem in the dog world right now. And I think from an individual case-by-case standpoint, if you're in that position like this lady, if she feels he didn't provide results, which again, the review is where it gets tricky, because she did leave him a very positive review on like Google or whatever the fuck it was. But let's say she never left that review and all of this happened and she's still in the exact same position she was before. Like, you're entitled to some shit over it. The other sketchy part though is the views off of, or the money from like the views and stuff on the video. I guess that would be contingent on if in his contract he has a photo and video release on it, right? Because like I know in our contract, like we have a photo video release in ours, right? So like if we take videos, right, we're allowed to video you, we're allowed to video your dog. And I discussed in the podcast episode we did, obviously you need to use your best like PR judgment on like what you post and what you don't post to not make your client look like a fucking idiot. But if a video, I guess my problem is, let me gather my thoughts here. Hold on. I guess my issue is, why, like, so we could call it exploiting her for the views and stuff, right? But if legally he was allowed to take video and those were his videos, past just getting her money back for the services unrendered, why would she be entitled to the money from the views? This is me kind of playing devil's advocate for this, though I don't disagree with you, you know?
I think it's worth asking. It's worth asking a lawyer, because I would bet, even though we have these video releases in our contract, which we do have, I bet it doesn't cover for monetary gain from their likeness, from using their likeness to make money. I'm sure that there's some other thing that we would need to include in our contracts if we want to cover for that. Some lawyer could, I'm sure, maybe win that case, especially if there's lots of money being made off of it.
Yeah.
Even if there's a video release, that just covers like, you can video me, but it doesn't mean you can make millions of dollars off of me, right? I'm sure there's some sort of law that covers that.
That's an interesting spin on it. That I absolutely, that is.
You ask a lawyer. Yeah. You have to ask a lawyer. I have no idea.
That is absolutely worth looking into because
I'm going to phone my lawyer right after this.
No, 100% right. Because I look at this, like, let's say you have a client and the whole experience was great and you did everything perfectly, right? And you've got a video that goes bananas viral and gets 100 million views on YouTube, and YouTube pays out monetarily very well for obviously AdSense on videos and stuff like that. And you do make $100,000 off of that video, right? Yeah, at that point, is that, I don't know, like, is that client entitled to some of that? That is an interesting question.
Hopefully not. Ask a lawyer. I don't know.
That's interesting. I like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hell yeah. Well,
right on.
Yeah, that's interesting. Cool. Well, what else is anything else going on at the facility? You said business is good. Have you guys seen? I don't know what's going on as far. I guess you're in a different fucking country. I feel like we've had over the last year a lot of like economical ups and downs. I would say where we've stayed very busy, but we've definitely noticed different patterns as far as how much people are signing up for certain services over others, et cetera, et cetera. And it's funny, like the last I would say a lot of people that I know in the industry, like November, December was like a little bit lower than they were used to seeing. But for me, and I saw that as well, but for me so far, January has been like as busy as fucking ever. Like we've been like right back to like, I feel like normal as far as stuff. Have you guys been pretty steady with stuff or?
Yeah. So, it's been a big problem, right? For seems like the whole industry has been going through this downturn.
Yeah.
I saw like a thing recently, again, amongst like some of the, I'm friends with some people that like own some larger facilities down in the States too, like probably your size kind of thing. Right. Mm-hmm. And like, they're going through the same kind of issues where it's like, they're having trouble filling their kennels and stuff like that.
Yep.
Having trouble, like, filling programs and stuff like that, having to lay people off. And it's definitely one of those things that I think it seems like the whole industry is going through. I saw something the other day that said like Google search results for people searching for dog training is at an all-time low right now, is something that I saw recently shared. Like as far as Google Analytics says, I don't know if that's true or not, but with that said, like we've had the busiest January I think we've ever had this year. Like we're doing really well right now. Like our kennels are full right now. We had a couple slow months in like November, December. Yep. That was kind of our doing though, because that was when I had to go to the Ivan school, and we kind of just took a bit of a break from training and stuff then. So things really slowed down then, which is kind of stupid on our end. And then through Christmas, it was a little slow through December, which is typical. We're used to that. People don't want to spend that much money right before Christmas. We were full with boarding, like our kennels were full over Christmas with boarding, but not with training. But as far as January goes and February goes, by the looks of things, we're on track for some records for this year for sure. Things keep going the way they're going right now. But I know other people aren't feeling the same. So obviously there's something, something.
We had like maybe a year or two ago, like we were we couldn't, like we were like beating people off with a stick that wanted to fucking sign up for training with us, you know? And it was insane. And we fully were able to capitalize on it. We were able to kind of expand in a way where we were able to kind of render most of those services that we had the demand for. And it was awesome. But we're kind of, I would say near middle of last year, not just from a standpoint of the demand was lower than before, but we really wanted to take this idea of like scaling back down a little bit, and focusing a little bit more. And not that we never focus on quality, obviously, but like seeing what ways we could do to take the training to the next level and continue to make it like more and more of a boutique service for people, and provide more, like we talked about, like adding the in-home lessons in and just doing more support with the clients post-training and like all of that kind of stuff. And I think that was like the best thing that we could have done, because like we're kind of back to like we're busy, we're full. Like I think we're putting out the best work we've ever put out at this point. The reviews are fantastic still, all that kind of stuff. And the other side of things too is like I looked at it like last year when things started kind of slowing down a little bit and I noticed that downturn in the industry. I was like, well, there's still like 7 fucking board and train facilities within a 40-mile radius of us. You know what I mean? And they're obviously getting board. They're probably slower as well, but they're getting board and trains. So we just need to, I just looked at it as like a challenge of we need to make ourselves more undeniably better than these other places, so that it's like, I'm not going to fucking go out of business, right? Like I want to take that business from everybody else. And at that point, that's kind of like that competition side of me or whatever whatever you call it. You know what I mean? And I try to stay pretty aware of like just through like social media and stuff like that of like what a lot of the other places are doing. And seems like it's working. That's all I'll say.
Well, I think the big thing that you guys were talking about earlier, if you're just kind of that trainer that never brings people back, like people always have those kind of issues and they just don't become reoccurring clients. They don't tell people about you. Like those are the people that are going to start suffering a lot more now because people are tightening their wallets. Like, it's not all willy nilly. Like, let's just go out there and get our dog trained. Now they're taking the time to, kind of see, maybe follow a bunch of different trainers on Instagram and see who vibes with them more. So people are still spending the money, but they're just being more cautious of it. So it's like the people that are doing the good work and having the better reviews and the more, what do you call it, word of mouth, I think are the ones that, you guys are doing great work. So you're still getting all these clients that are coming back and telling other people about you guys. So you're having these records when some people are like, it's kind of on the downhill right now.
Yeah, just give them more reason to spend the money with you. That's it. So, hell yeah.
Yeah, so we got into it. I don't think when we last talked, I was at my old place back then, still running the business at my home back then.
Yeah.
Like the home we were renting.
Oh yeah,
we're in a facility now, so we have like.
Shit, I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're in like a 3,500 square foot facility now. I mean, my house is still attached to the facility, which is kind of cool. So I still live on site, but we have like a large training room, a large kennel room, all that good stuff. So I'm in the unique position where, as far as I know, we're really like one of, if not the only balanced dog training facility in this area, really like within, a couple hours of my city. And I'm in a really big city too. So like there's over 1 million people in this city. So all the other balance trainers seem to be done like either out of like facilities that they rent for classes periodically or out of their home. Whereas I have that opportunity or that benefit of being, one of the only ones in an indoor facility. So especially here where we see like such cold temperatures, such long winters and stuff, having that ability to train indoors year round has been a godsend for us. The past little bit. And I think going forward, especially the more we advertise that, the more that will attract clients, where, like now, our capacity's obviously increased quite a bit and stuff, this is where it gets into like, now it's like, now we're having to account for that extra capacity, the extra staff. So we really have to increase business tenfold. And it's like, it becomes this stressful thing where it's like sometimes you're like, okay, I just want to downsize and go back to doing things with just a couple people and 5 or 6 dogs kind of thing. But at the end of the day, it's having such a large operation, it can be, like I said, more stressful, but the benefits of it are really awesome. You do have to balance though, like you were saying, like as you grow with facilities, and I know like happens so often, especially like places in the States and stuff. I think more so than here, where places grow where they're so big that they're not. It's quantity over quality, right?
Yes.
And maybe they rely on like big marketing and like commercials and stuff like that to draw clients in, but those clients are only coming once, and they're not telling anybody about you because they didn't have a good experience. And you can only burn through those kinds of clients so many times before there's no more clients to burn through. And then even if you're in a well-populated area, even if you're spending all this money on marketing, you're not getting clients at a certain point, and that's why. So I think like, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm assuming you don't really pay for much marketing, if any.
I do a lot of social media marketing, but I don't do marketing from the standpoint, like I feel like there's 2 ways you can kind of market. You can market like an ad targeted to people to try to get them to sign up for dog training, right? Like you'll see Sit Mean Sid or Off Leash Canine and stuff. They'll do a post that's like, want your dog to walk well on a leash? Well, our program is on sale. Come sign up now, blah, blah, blah. We do marketing just to get people into our circle, right? So I get people to follow us on social media. That's all of our ads are targeted in a way where it's a video that's going to get you to follow us. So you could be in our circle. We could start to build rapport and trust with you. And then the way I look at it is, and we don't market to like a specific area. I market to just USA, right? Like everywhere of people that might be interested in our content, right? And I feel like everybody knows somebody that owns a dog. So like the more eyes we can get on us, the more our word of mouth spreads and the more the potential of a customer coming in is. And we see all the time, like people that we market to, they'll start following us and then, they'll follow us for 3 months. Right. And they'll really get into the content, start listening to the podcast and follow us on YouTube and all that kind of stuff. And then 3 months, and then maybe they'll ask a couple questions. We reply back to them and stuff. And then 3 months later, they're like, wow, like I really jive with this place. Like I'm interested in actually signing up for a virtual, or I'm interested in signing up for an in-person program or whatever it may be. And that's really, I would say, how we look at marketing from our standpoint. I mean, this client that just came into town from Chicago, that's how they found us. I mean, they found us online through, I think, like an ad or something, and started following us for a while, and then decided they wanted to travel up here and do some training, So, but yeah, not marketing from that standpoint, but yeah, we do have a marketing budget. I do think it's important to invest in a little bit.
Yeah. He pays me.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. Is you look at like our media budget is really high. That is like the marketing in itself as well. Yeah,
no, for sure, definitely. It's one of those things where it's like it's the difference between, like you said, like putting out those posts that are just broadcasted to everybody. Like, yeah, you want your dog trained, we can help. Or call us today to book your free evaluation, things like that. Where it's like I don't like and like you get those, and again, like I don't really, we'll pay for like Facebook ads and stuff like that, but I don't do like the, where you have to pay for calls and stuff like that. Where trainers are paying like $50 or $100 just to get a phone call from a client. You know what I mean? Like from marketing companies and stuff like that kind of thing. I think is like, you start attracting the wrong clients and stuff too, right? That aren't actually, you're wasting your time answering phone calls. You're wasting your time, with some of that stuff, right?
A long time ago, we used to do a lot of Google AdWords, which is like, you pay per click and stuff. And we would get a shit ton of contact forms in from people. But yeah, everybody I would talk to, because when you get into this like boutique service level where like you're very expensive, right? You're looking for a very particular type of person, and the person really needs to be in a very particular stage in their relationship with their dog in order to want to sign up. The amount of people is high from a number standpoint, but from a percentage wise, it's not that high. So yeah, we would call these people, and we'd be paying, I think at the time it was like $25 a click or something like that. And it's like, we would just be wasting our time. We'd call somebody, we'd tell them the price, they'd be like, nobody would ever pay that, right? Click, right? And that would just be happening so often, where our marketing, again, it's built on this concept of, we want to just establish trust with people, and we want them to want to work with us before I ever speak with them, so that the return on
that's exactly it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not trying to sell the dog training on the phone when you're booking them. The dog, it's already been sold, you've already sold them on it. Now they're trying to get you to take their money, not the other way around. Like if you're in a position where you're trying to take other people's money, then that's like, if you're trying to get the money from them, that's the wrong way to do it. You want them to want to give you their money. That's the end goal, right?
Yeah.
Of any advertising.
Yeah.
Should be.
For sure. Yeah. Well, dude, congrats on the expansion. So did you have that space built? It looks like a new steel building or something.
No, it's an old shitty steel building. It's on a farm. So we rent this. So we rent the property from the landlord, and the landlord lives on the property. He's got a house situated just up from the facility. And then we have an apartment that's attached to the facility. So I live here on site with my partner, pretty much 24/7.
Yeah.
But we rent the space, and it's just a shop that was built on the property previously. So right now, like, it works for us. It's like I said, it really is a perfect space. Like, I wish I owned the property. I really do. And maybe at some point in time we can get to that point. But even just being able to rent a space like this with its location to the city, it's only like 15 minutes from the city. It's in a very affluential part of the province, really. And it's just beautiful country. We have acreage property, we got multiple acres of free space for the dogs, plus the big facility, indoor facility, fully heated and everything. So it's awesome in that regards. But yeah, it's not. I have, and even like honestly, like even lately, especially like with things kind of picking up, I've been looking at like, okay, what is it going to cost to build a facility? What's it going to cost to actually build something of my own that's like perfect? Because now that I'm in a space, I have all these ideas that like I could change to make it better.
Yeah.
because right now it's like, it's good for what we're doing right now, but there are limitations.
Yeah.
We're supposed to have Forrest Mickey come out here for a seminar in June.
Yeah, that's cool.
So that's going to be so that'll be like our first big seminar, really, like, but even then it's like, we have a limitation on how many people we can have on the property and stuff, because we don't own the property.
Yeah.
We have limitations on, what we can add and do to the property and stuff to make it the perfect dog training facility.
Yeah.
And so those are all things that, like, if I had my own space that I owned and had built from the ground up, there's things I would definitely do different.
Yeah.
But no, from where we were before to where we are now, it's a tenfold improvement. I mean, it's so much more enjoyable training the dogs. The dogs enjoy it more. The staff enjoys it more.
Yeah.
The extra space and stuff. The clients especially enjoy it more. Yeah. So it's great.
Yeah, we've been renting for almost 10 years now, and it's just, I mean, I would love to. I think the idea of having your own space would be cool, because like every time, like, we just did a freaking $10,000 fence install, right? We have $5,000 of new turf added in because of that. I've got a freaking company there right now cleaning and shit. You know what I mean? Like,
a wave of relief just washed over me with you saying that, because I'm not the only idiot out here spending my own money on a rental property. It's like we've
probably put easily $150,000 into over the years, into renovations and stuff like that, into our spaces that we have, and it's like, yeah, that's a lot of money, but I have no fucking liability when it comes to our one unit flooded, like over the summertime, right? Like, we were out there or anything like that, so it wasn't that major, but like that was on the landlord, right? Like we had some roof issues, right? That was on the landlord, right? Like all that kind of stuff. Like we have no major liability associated with all of that. And at any point, like obviously I'm locked into right now, I think like a 5-year lease or something like that. But if let's say the industry, I think we might have talked about this a little bit last time, if the industry continues to move towards digital training, virtual training, stuff like that, the demand for in-person stuff is going to continue getting lower and lower, which means you're going to need less space. And then you're stuck with this big ass fucking, warehouse building or steel building that you need to like offload or just continue spending the money on when you don't actually need it. Right. Like, yes, again, it would be nice, but the freedoms of not owning are also very nice as long as you get a good enough deal. Like our landlord is really cool. We don't pay a ridiculous amount in rent or anything like that. Mm-hmm. So I'm okay with, putting the money into making it how I want it, per the amount I'm saving in the long run. So.
Yeah. I used to now that I'm, because we're in a pretty big city, like especially as far as Canadian cities go, it's probably like the third biggest city. And like I used to have like a dream of like having a facility kind of like your guys, or like Tyler Muto's place, like the Canine Connection place, where it's like kind of like right situated, within the community. You walk out the front door and you're in the city, kind of thing. Yeah. That used to be kind of like my goal, but now that I've kind of had a taste of this, like having an acreage that's just outside the city, like not so far outside the city that nobody's going to want to come out here and that it's like treacherous to drive, but just far enough where it's like easy to get to, but still in the country, and you have the property and stuff. Yeah. It's like, now this is like the ultimate goal and the ultimate dream. So, so like for me, it's like when we grow out of this place, like that will be the next ideal, will be, another acreage that I can own, or, a house on the property kind of thing. Yeah. I'm the kind of person, I like being at work all the time. I like living at work kind of thing. Some people couldn't do that, but it's kind of what I enjoy.
Yeah. I think if we're located so close to like some of Cleveland's biggest parks that we get the access to all the land and stuff like that still, right? So it makes it more tolerable. Where like, I remember I visited Blake's facility in New York one time, and bro, that place is tiny as shit. Mm-hmm. And I could not imagine.
Yeah, and I bet they pay $1 billion a month for it.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Well, hell yeah, man. I mean, listen, like so is the boarding a new service that you're offering then with the extra space, or did you offer it before?
Nope. We've always done boarding, but it's only for past clients. Like we only do boarding for past clients still, which is the way we want to keep it. I think you kind of do the similar thing. Like I don't really like to work with dogs that I haven't put my hands on, especially with boarding and stuff. It's, leaving them with my kennel techs and stuff is just not the best. So we always try to have done training with them. There's the odd exception we'll make, but otherwise,
Hell Hell yeah.
Yeah. I don't really ever want to get into it. Even if I would never want to get into doing just general boarding. That's just, that gets gross then, I think,
We did things backwards where we started off with offering like boarding and daycare to anybody, and then training was like an extra service. So we were like a kennel that also did training, right? Yeah. And then we flip-flopped obviously to being a training facility that also offers kennel services. Mm-hmm. And I would never in a gazillion years think about going back to it. It is just not worth it. Yeah. No. And obviously with the more, it's funny you were talking about, as things like expand and stuff, like different issues with like, staffing or all that kind of stuff. Dude, if you ever, I've learned so many hard mistakes like through like expanding and shrinking and like all that kind of stuff. Dude, if you ever have any questions on that stuff, just reach out because there's so much bullshit that can come with it. So.
Oh yeah, it's crazy. And it's like, you find a spot where it's like, you have this idea that you want to keep growing and become this big, like maybe franchise owner or something like that. But then you realize it's like how out of control things get, both with like the quality of the training that's put out and just the stress associated with that. It's like, I kind of think, fuck that, it's like, so for me, like I have no desire to grow beyond what we're doing with dog training here, but I'd love to do like other, like I'd like to open a coffee shop that's dog friendly or something like that. Like that's one of the goals for me, kind of thing. Still dog related stuff, but outside the training aspect of things is kind of where I would expand myself. Cause like I said, even as I have a large facility now, it's like, I enjoy it, but this is about as big as I think I would want to get. You know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Dope. You got anything else you want to add, Josh?
No, I'm good.
All right, last question. I know you've gotten into the whiskey thing lately. What's your current favorite bottle that you have?
Yeah, so we were, like we said, we were just in Vegas here, right, for the SHOT Show. We were back in Vegas, and we actually went on a little liquor tour there.
Yeah.
Pardon?
Did you go to Nevada Distillery Smokehouse at all, or no?
That is that's Smoke Wagon.
Yeah, Smoke Wagon. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't like their stuff. I don't like their bourbon.
Oh, man. I've only tried their small batch. I like their small batch.
Okay, and maybe I have to try it. Like I got a bottle of their stuff from Costco, is where I got it from when I was there, and it might have just been like their like bottom of the barrel stuff. But it wasn't my favorite, especially for the price. But so when we were in Vegas this time, we went on a little liquor tour. Went to a couple of the big like liquor stores there.
Yeah.
There's just some like really like liquor stores that carry some like really like exclusive bottles and stuff like that, right? So we went to one and like they had like all the Pappy Van Winkles and stuff, like thousands of dollars for these bottles of whiskey and stuff like that, right? We went to this the one store that we went to that I bought a bottle of E.H. Taylor. I think it's small batch.
Yeah,
E.H. Taylor.
Yeah.
That for me is like, that's honestly one of my favorite bourbons is the E.H. Taylor. And I cannot find it here in Canada.
Yeah. And
it was the only bottle that they had there in that particular, like that store, that chain. So I picked that up and like, I have that right now. Yeah. I really enjoy that. But we, my buddy, while we were down there, my buddy Jeremiah and Rob too, they both bought a bottle of, and maybe you've heard of it, but I think it was Garrison something. Garrison.
It's got a big star on it.
A sheriff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it literally has a medal that comes with it with the sheriff's like logo on it. Yeah. And it comes in a box that looks like a coffin. Yeah. It's like a $300 bottle of bourbon they bought, and it's like 70% content.
Yeah.
We never actually cracked into it while I was down there, which is kind of sad. So I'm sure I'll try it next time I see those guys.
Yeah.
I'd like to try something like that, but no, for me, like E.H. Taylor is one of my favorites, which I think people are not going to like that. Like I feel like a lot of people don't really like that bourbon, but I'm a big fan of it.
Oh yeah, it's a super popular one right now.
Yeah, and I like my Blantons and stuff too.
Yeah.
I like Blantons quite a bit. I only like bourbon though. Like I really don't like rye. I don't like Canadian whiskey is all like really rye heavy whiskey, and like I cannot drink Canadian whiskey. It ruins me and it makes me not feel very good, and I don't like the taste of it. Yeah. And then Scotch, I've never been into Scotch or anything like that. So I'm not a whiskey connoisseur so much as I just like cheap bourbon.
Yeah. Hell yeah. I like it. I've got one of my recent ones. So I counted the other day. It's gotten out of control. Actually,
it's insane.
I think I counted the other day, and I have 64 bottles now at this point.
That's not
so like I have like buy the
got.
extras of stuff too. Like I have 2 bottles of the EH small batch. I recently got the entire collection of Blanton's, like all 7 bottles. I have 3 bottles of Blanton's Gold at this point, just because anytime I find it, because you can't find it anywhere, I just buy it. My newest one that I got though that I really like is the Elijah Craig Barrel Proof, which won like I think won Bourbon of the Year last year or something like that. Like their C923 blend or whatever or batch. That one's really good. If you get your eyes on that, get it because it's super high proof. It's like I think it's like 130 proof or something like that. So just over 60%. It's super good, great flavor. You'll like it. So.
Yeah, we don't like this. And I don't know for sure, but just seeing what I saw down in like Vegas and stuff like that, like the bourbon selection that you guys have, which obviously makes sense. It's like it's so much more expansive than what we have up here. Like I said, like just for me to find a bottle of EH Taylor is kind of difficult. Like we have
can't find that anywhere either.
The big names and stuff like that, but.
Anything Buffalo Trace, which EH, Blanton's, regular Buffalo Trace, Weller, all that. Yeah. You basically, it's all, at least by us, it's all allocated. So you have to basically go wait in line to get it.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Okay, so so that's a little bit of a harder one to find then for sure. But but still, it's like, we have lots of like our Canadian whiskey, which obviously when I come down there, like you guys don't have much of that. But so when I come down there, I like to definitely sample the different bourbons and stuff like that. But I'll have to look for that. I'll have to see if I can find that.
Yeah, cool. You got anything else you wanna throw in? Tell the people anything?
No, just like I said, like we got Forrest Mickey coming out here beginning of June. I think it's the first weekend of June. I want to say like June 8th weekend or something like that, I believe. So that'll be, he's going to come up for 2 days to do a seminar. That's in Calgary, Alberta. That's where we're located. So if any of your listeners are from that area, we don't really get a lot of dog trainers to come up into this area, especially the western side of Canada. So it's pretty rare, especially somebody like Forrest. So that'll be pretty big, I think, for people.
Yeah.
So come on out, check that out if you're located near here.
I like it.
Otherwise, if you need any dog training or anything like that too, within the Calgary area, in Alberta, really, I mean, we service the whole province for the most part. Bring your dog to us, call us, get in touch with us because we can help.
And I think I asked you this last time, but you're pretty far from Toronto, right?
Yeah, we're like very far from Toronto, like all the way like across the country, basically.
Got it.
Like we're as far from you in Ohio are as far from. It's basically like going to LA for you. It's the same distance as LA.
Yeah. Oh God.
Yeah. So it's like across the country.
Yeah, I'm gonna be.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. Like really, like it's kind of the nice thing. Like, and I think it's kind of what I attribute to our sort of success and like not being so affected by the downturn in the market is just like. Where there's so much space between the big cities in Canada and the services offered that it's easy to kind of dominate a market and not even dominate a market, but just not get flooded out so fast. Like like I have a friend that owns a business in Tampa and it's like, there's 1 billion dog trainers in Tampa. It's like, how do you even get a single client? It's insane. Versus here where it's like people will come from even all over the country really to train here because it's either here, Toronto or Vancouver. Those are the 3 options really.
Yeah.
So it's kind of awesome.
Yeah, hell yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, at some point we got to link up. I'm going to be in Toronto in March. The Canine Academy up in Toronto is having me up for one of their seminars, and I'm going to try to link up with some of the Canadian folk up there. But yeah, that's.
You do seminars?
What's up?
You do seminars? Like you would host a seminar or what?
Yeah, I've done. We don't host seminars really, but I'll travel to do them. From time to time, depending.
I mean, you would lead. That's what I meant. Yeah, you would lead a seminar. That's that kind of meant. Yeah.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, we'll maybe stay in touch with that because that could be something we could.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't do a ton of them, but like I've got a couple buddies that have had me, come do seminars and stuff like that, and they're a ton of fun. I like doing them. So I just I like linking up and training dogs. You know what I mean? I don't even like it to necessarily like this one I'm doing with Canine Academy. It's not like it's like the David the Dog Trainer seminar. He's having just like a trainer's seminar, and he asked me to just come up and be a part of it. So I'm going to go there. He'll be doing some stuff. I'll be doing some stuff. I'm not sure if he's having anybody else up for it or not. Same with another one I did down in Nashville a long time ago with Tammy McLeod. She had me come down and be a part of her trainer seminar. It's just, it's fun. It's just like linking up, sharing different ideas and stuff. It's kind of how like, Larry does his like 3 trainer seminar, series or whatever with like Joel and Jay, right? You get a different taste of different ideas and stuff like that. And it's cool, So yeah, I'm always open to something like that. So.
Yeah, we'll have to maybe set that up because that'd be something I know people would be interested in out here. So absolutely, we'll stay in touch with that.
Hell yeah.
I think the only other thing is the next time we do this, it should be in person.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. We'll do it.
Yeah, we can do that.
Well,
with some whiskey or something like that.
I was going to say.
No more of this fucking 8 a.m. bullshit.
I know.
It's 8 a.m. right now, right? Well, it's 9 a.m. now, but Jesus Christ.
It's only 9 a.m. for you right now?
Yeah,
oh, shit. It's like noon.
It's 10. It's 10 now. No, it's 10 now. Yeah, now it's 10. Yes, I didn't realize how long it's been, but still, like, yeah, let's have a whiskey or something in person or just another one of these, but for sure.
We'll make it happen.
I was going to say, fly him out here and just give him one of your 64 bottles. Listen, when he first started,
I like it.
He had it on the counter in the kitchen, and I would come every week.
Growing.
There was like 2, and finally, his wife was like, "You got to put this downstairs." So because like their entire island was just with like bottles of whiskey and bourbon.
Yeah. Fuck yeah.
That's so funny. Yeah. I'm not there yet. No, I can't keep the bottles long enough. I buy one and I just sit with it and drink it, and then that one's gone and I go buy another one.
Yeah.
I'm still not like where I'm collecting the bottles yet, but I should start maybe. Try to catch up to your level.
I started trying to like do the math on how much I've spent on all of it too. And it's just like, no, it's good. Just do it one at a time like you're doing right now.
Yeah. Have you reached out to Ivan yet to do a podcast or
not? I haven't reached out again. I reached out to him maybe 3-4 months ago, something like that. And at the time he said he was too busy with his school. I would really like to be able to get him on. We'll see if we can make it happen. I'll talk to him again sometime. So.
Yeah. No, that'd be a good conversation. So yeah. Cool.
Awesome, man. Well, same deal. We'll have this up. I think Monday. I'll share everything with you and stuff. So
nice.
And we'll.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So no, it's awesome. We can share the clips and stuff too. So
yeah,
we get a lot of good feedback from that and stuff. So
yeah,
it's awesome.
Dope. All right, man. Well, take care of yourself.
Awesome, guys.
We'll talk soon.
All right, take care. We'll stay in touch then. Okay.
Yeah.
Take care, guys. See you, Josh. See you, David.
Yep. See ya.